Chapter 3971. These smoky creatures were all emotionless killers. They didn't say a single word. They raised their sickles and chopped down as if they were chopping melons. Ning Shu was dragged deeper and deeper by the scythe. The venom on the scythe made him unable to move. Even his senses were starting to become blurry. This scene left him speechless. He was here to eat and replenish his energy, but he ended up losing his life here. Moreover, there were quite a number of people from many races. They suffered heavy losses. Ning Shu felt that his race was also quite heavy. After all, if he died, the entire race would die too. When the mountain saw that Ning Shu was being dragged away, he immediately ran. He ran until the ground shook and he reached out to grab the mist-like creatures. However, the speed of the mist-like creatures wasn't something that the mountain could catch. The mountain was the one who was exhausted. The mist-like creatures didn't attack the mountain. Firstly, their bodies were too big. Secondly, their defensive abilities were too strong. They couldn't be killed in one hit. These mist-like creatures relied on their speed and were unpredictable. They would suddenly appear behind people and kill them. They were completely assassin-type creatures. Ning Shu grabbed the scythe and looked at the creatures floating in the sky. What method could he use to restrain this kind of race? No race was flawless. These creatures were very explosive. They probably couldn't last long. Although they couldn't last long, the problem was that ordinary attacks could reassemble their bodies even if they were cut into many pieces. Speaking of which, there was a very rustic method. That was to take a bottle and store them. However, there wasn't anything that could store the mist-like creatures. Also, the wind was more effective against them. And he understood the logic. However, what should he do? In any case, Ning Shu was feeling bitter. If only there was a container nearby that could contain her. Furthermore, where was she being dragged to? The others were all killed cleanly, but they were dragging her. Was it because she was a cub that they were especially merciful? Ning Shu was shocked by his own guess. After all, these killers were too cold. Container, where could he find a container? If he still had the peerless martial art, he could have used it to store this creature. Speaking of which, using the peerless martial art could store a lot of things. Ning Shu thought of the tumor in his brain. After continuous development, the peerless martial arts became uglier with each generation. In the end, it became a lump. Ning Shu communicated with the tumor that was quietly floating in his head. I need to suck in the creature behind me now. Give me some strength. The tumor ignored Ning Shu and did not respond at all. Ning Shu did not know if it would be effective, but even if it was not, she still wanted to escape from these assassins. Ning Shu grabbed the cold scythe. The scythe was like an ice blade. It was stuck to his skin and flesh, almost unable to be separated. It was embedded in his flesh. Moving it caused a heart-wrenching pain. Ning Shu turned his head and tried his best to press his forehead against the scythe. The scythe was very cold. Just touching it would cause a cold breeze, causing his head to hurt. Ning Shu touched it, but there was no reaction, so he touched it again. There was still no reaction. Ning Shu used his head to bang against the scythe. The peerless martial art probably did not have any strength left. Otherwise, it would not be like this. Just as Ning Shu was disappointed and was thinking of another way, a thumb-sized black hole slowly rotated between his eyebrows. It had a huge suction force. First, the scythe was forced to be sucked in. The body of the mist-like creature holding the scythe was also slowly sucked into the hood like smoke. The mist-like creature wanted to struggle, but the suction force of the black hole was too strong. It could not struggle. He let out a beast-like roar and struggled to crawl out. In the end, he was completely sucked in unwillingly. Ning Shu's head was about to explode. His head hurt so much that it felt like it was stuffed full. No matter what, he was saved now. Ning Shu stood up shakily and covered the wound on his shoulder. Black poisonous blood kept flowing out. She ran towards Shan Yu with stiff limbs. Shan Yu ran and grabbed Ning Shu. He looked up and down. Are you okay? Ning Shu's lips were pale. I'm fine. It's just that this is poisonous. Bah! Shan Yu spat out a mouthful of saliva and directly spat on Ning Shu. Ning Shu felt like she had been splashed by a large basin of water. Her whole body was wet and she was in a very sorry state. Ning Shu was stunned. She asked stupidly, "What are you doing?" Shan Yu said, "Disinfecting, disinfecting." This was too realistic. Using saliva to disinfect? Ning Shu touched her face and brushed her hair aside. She decided to treat her wound first. She sat on Shan Yu's shoulder and exposed her shoulder. There was a black hole in the wound. Ning Shu squeezed hard on her wound and squeezed out the poisonous blood. She cried out in pain as she squeezed. What happened to Ning Shu made the battlefield tilt a little. With the previous example, when Ning Shu was treating her wound, no mist-like creature came to kill Ning Shu. Clearly, these mist-like creatures felt that Ning Shu had something that countered their race. Shan Yu was also a big guy, so it was difficult to fight him. On the battlefield, the other races slowly moved towards Ning Shu's side. They defended against the attacks while attacking Ning Shu. A race with sharp ears took out a fruit and threw it to Ning Shu. "This is the antidote. Eat it." This meant that they wanted to cooperate. Ning Shu grabbed the fruit. This fruit was covered in lumps and looked extremely ugly. It also had a foul smell. It looked more like poison than anything else. Ning Shu didn't recognize this fruit. He held it up for Shan Yu to see. Shan Yu stared at the fruit for a while. "I don't recognize it either." Hearing this, the ears of the pointy-eared race trembled. "Do you think I still have the mind to harm you at this time?" Ning Shu thought about it and agreed. Shan Yu said, "Not necessarily. After all, you are so ugly." Ning Shu looked at the pointy-eared race. Their faces were angular, and they had a pair of blue eyes. They were not ugly at all. The pointy-eared race was so angry that his eyes changed color. It was unknown whether it was because he was questioned or because he was called ugly. "Eat it or not. If you don't want it, then forget it." Although he said this, he didn't leave. Ning Shu knew what he meant. However, he didn't know how many times he could use this ability. He might not be able to use it. Until now, Ning Shu's head was still buzzing. It was very uncomfortable. If it was used a few more times, it would probably explode. You just had to treat your wound, so you ate the ugly fruit full of lumps. Seeing Ning Shu eat the fruit, the pointy-eared race flew to Shan Yu's shoulder and sat down next to Ning Shu. After eating the fruit, the bleeding of the wound was also relieved. Chapter 3972. Every time he saw Fodder, Ning Shu couldn't help but feel sorry for him. Whose eyes were he trying to torture by making himself look so miserable? The story of conquering the heavens was much simpler. In any case, he just had to keep looking for things. He had to look for anything that could allow him to grow legs. Fodder felt so miserable. He kept looking for things. Previously, he was looking for things that could revive Ning Shu. Now, he was looking for things that could help him grow legs. He had suffered so much. He hugged himself with heartache. Ning Shu wanted to reach out and pat Fagin's shoulder to comfort him. However, when she saw how dirty his shoulder was, she decided against it. Fodder almost burst into tears. "Are you looking down on me?" No. I'm already so ugly. Why would I look down on you? Don't think too much." Ning Shu laughed. Fodder rolled his eyes. Ning Shu said, "I found you the accompanying energy of a void cub. I heard that it can help you grow legs." Fodder raised his eyebrows, looking doubtful. "Pert? Who told you that?" "Ning Shu." "Shan Yu." Fodder snorted. "I don't really believe it. We'll know if it's useful after we try. There's no harm in trying." Ning Shu didn't know if this thing was useful or not. If Shan Yu said it was useful, then let's give it a try. Fodder didn't object. After all, it was all for his legs. When they returned to their new clan land, Fodder looked left and right. "For the sake of that river, I'll change clan land." This place was really barren. The Divine Stone Tribe was really thrifty. "Ning Shu, the world is so big. Anywhere is home." Seeing Ning Shu return, Shan Yu heaved a sigh of relief. "I thought something would happen to you." Ning Shu smiled. How could something happen? She wasn't there to fight. "Here, this is the accompanying energy." Ning Shu gave the energy to Shan Yu and asked, "Do I just eat it?" Shan Yu nodded. "Eat it." Half of the accompanying energy is to help the cub grow taller. It has an extension effect. It will replenish whatever is lacking. Shan Yu smacked his lips. If it still doesn't work, it's probably because the accompanying energy is too little. Ning Shu, luckily, it's a lot. Ning Shu looked at Fa Tian. Hurry up and eat it all. Oh, Fa Tian replied as he absorbed all the accompanying energy. Then he looked at his legs. Ning Shu asked, "How do you feel?" Heaven Punisher muttered, "It's itchy." In the beginning, Fadian could still tolerate it. However, in the end, he could not help but want to use his hands to pinch it. The itch was unbearable. It was as if 10,000 ants were crawling on his skin. It was both itchy and numb. Oh my god, this feeling is really awesome. Ning Shu looked at Fa Tian's legs and was confused. Why didn't it grow back? Shan Yu said angrily, "It's just a leg. How can it grow so fast?" Fa Tian couldn't help it. "It's so itchy. Is there something wrong?" Shan Yu, "It's itchy because it's growing." Ning Shu, "Fa Tian, it doesn't seem to be the same thing." Fa Tian regretted eating it so hastily. Who knew it would be so itchy? Tfan, it's so itchy. Ning Shu, bear with it. Ning Shu probably felt that he was too cold and heartless. He softened his voice and said the most heartless words in the softest voice, "Bear with it." Fa Tian went to lie down in the cave. He was afraid that he would roll around in public if he stayed outside. It was really too itchy. Ning Shu found something for Fa Tian to eat. However, if Fa Tian's itchiness lasted for too long, it would make people wonder if this thing would work. He didn't want it to end up not growing back after suffering. However, Ning Shu didn't dare to show his melancholy in front of Fa Tian. Instead, he said very firmly, "It will work." Ning Shu turned and left the cave. He ran quickly to find Shan Yu. "Why do I feel like something is wrong? Do you want Carp to come over and take a look? Please don't let anything go wrong. Even though Fadian only lost a leg, I hope he doesn't lose his life." Ning Shu asked, "Is there racial segregation? Can't different races absorb each other's energy?" Shan Yu's eyes widened. "There's such a thing?" Ning Shu, Shan Yu waved his hand. "I don't think so. It's just that the energy isn't classified yet. There's no problem with energy. It's about..." Ning Shu hurriedly asked, "About what?" Shan Yu, "It's probably an allergy. He hasn't absorbed this kind of energy before." Ning Shu's face went numb. Was there such a thing as an allergy to energy? He was speechless. Ning Shu explained, he didn't have any energy when he was born. Fa Tian was a whip. He had a consciousness, personality, and intelligence. He didn't have any energy. Oh, no wonder. He just absorbed it. There must be something wrong. Do you want me to ask Carp to come over? I'm telling you, Carp won't come if he doesn't have something. He still owes you the last time, Shan Yu said. Ever since he had the cub, Shan Yu felt that he had met the doctor too many times. Ning Shu didn't have anything precious on him that Carp would be interested in. However, if he didn't ask Carp to come over, Fa Tian's situation would make him anxious. Ning Shu still decided to ask Carp to come over. Just as he was about to speak, Fa Tian called out to Ning Shu in a hoarse voice. Ning Shu entered the cave and saw Fa Tian staring blankly at his legs. Ning Shu looked over and found that Fa Tian's legs had really grown. However, there was a big problem, and that was that his legs had grown to his ankles. His legs hadn't grown out yet. This situation clearly meant that there wasn't enough energy. Ning Shu immediately regretted it. If he had known, he would have gotten more energy. Fa Tian was very happy. He turned his head and grabbed his messy curly hair. He looked tired. After being tortured for so long, his face naturally didn't look good. However, his eyes lit up. This method really works. After searching for so long, he finally found a way. Although his legs hadn't grown out yet, Fa Tian was already very satisfied. He just had to find more energy. He didn't expect it to be so simple. There weren't many races born in the void. Finding more energy was a very simple matter. Ning Shu also smiled. He reached out and touched Fa Tian's legs. They were warm and there wasn't a single gap. They were just like Fation's original legs. Ning Shu said, "Congratulations, congratulations. You have a new leg." Fation looked at Ning Shu and said, "Thank you." Ning Shu casually waved his hand. "With our relationship, there's no need to thank me. Haven't you always wanted to revive me? Let's not talk about this." Fion smiled and the corners of his eyes curved. "Okay, I won't talk about it." Then, Ning Shu realized something and sighed. "If only I knew about this earlier." Chapter 3973. Ning Shu, the innocent bystander, was suddenly involved in the battle. She tilted her head and looked at the two men. "Are you asking me? I really have nothing to do with him. Besides, whether I have something to do with him or not, what does it have to do with you?" Li Yangon showed a bloodthirsty smile. "As long as it's someone related to him, I won't let them have an easy time." Ning Shu said, "Oh, then can I go?" Li Yangon showed a malicious sneer to Qin Ji. "If you have nothing to do with him, you can naturally go. But now you have something to do with him." Ning Shu said, "I'm just a pitiful child passing by." Li Yangon said, "Innocent and pitiful. Some are even more cruel. They won't even let a woman go." Qin Ji's face showed a painful expression. "I'm sorry. I really didn't mean it. We didn't think your sister would do this." Ning Shu thought that the two people were flirting. It turned out that they really had old grudges. However, this had nothing to do with Ning Shu. There were too many things in the world. The most important thing now was to go to the north to find Earthworm and the others. As for these two strangers, Ning Shu was too lazy to care. Ning Shu was about to leave with the letter, but she was stopped by Li Yong'an's servant. "You can't go." Ning Shu was a little unhappy. "I said, I'm just a child passing by. Who knows if you're deliberately pretending not to know each other, so you can't go." Li Yong'an's tone to Ning Shu was very stiff, but it was not full of malice like it was to Qin Ji. Ning Shu said, "Speak human language. I'm just a child passing by. I don't understand the complicated grievances between you adults." Qin Ji said, "She really has nothing to do with me. Let her go." Ning Shu was a little annoyed. "Who cares what kind of entanglements you have between you two? I don't know why you're wasting other people's time." Ning Shu turned around and walked away. She did not want to be stopped by the thug. Without any hesitation, she struck out and sent the thug flying far away with a punch. He fell to the ground with a thud and vomited while clutching his stomach. The situation was suddenly reversed. No one thought that a child could beat an adult. The other thugs attacked together. Ning Shu used his hands and feet to get rid of all the obstacles in front of him. "Like I said, I'm just a kid passing by." Li Yangon stared at Ning Shu with an astonished expression. He inserted his fan into the jade belt at his waist and said to Ning Shu, "I'll deal with you." As he spoke, his fist flew towards Ning Shu like a gust of wind. Ning Shu tilted his head to avoid Li Yong'an's fist, grabbed his wrist, and threw him over his shoulder. Ning Shu pounded the ground back and forth as if he was holding a stick. Li Yangon had many close contacts with the ground. All the bones in his body were dislocated. Ning Shu let go of Li Yangon. "I said, I'm just a kid passing by. What does your matter have to do with me?" Li Yangon was in so much pain that he couldn't get up. All the bones in his body were dislocated. What kind of kid was this? Poor kid? Who was more pitiful? Li Yangon couldn't move. He said to the thugs, "Why aren't you coming over to help me?" There was no way to stand up with his own strength. The thugs were also unbearable. They got up and carried Li Yangon away. Ning Shu patted the dust on his hands. He didn't want to fight. Qin Ji's expression was very apologetic. "I'm sorry, I implicated you." "Ning Shu, it's good that you know." Qin Ji cleaned up his stall and followed Ning Shu out of the city. He quickly caught up with Ning Shu and said, "Actually, this is all my fault." "Ning Shu? What does it have to do with me?" Qin Ji said very desolately, "Li Yong'an's sister was indeed killed by me. There were feelings between us, but I'm just a scholar without any scholarly achievements. How am I worthy of her?" "Ning Shu, if you know you're not worthy, then don't provoke her." Qin Ji froze for a moment. "You're right. Unfortunately, I'm a selfish person. I know there's no result, but I still provoke her. Ning Shu curled his lips. This kind of person obviously couldn't give the girl a future. He couldn't suppress his inner feelings, which led to terrible consequences. But this had nothing to do with her. Thank you for reading the letter for me. I'm leaving. Qin Ji subconsciously asked, Are you going to the north alone? Is there a problem? Qin Ji just remembered that this little mushroom's fighting strength was quite terrifying. He smashed a man who was several cups heavier than him to the ground with a clang. Qin Ji suddenly knelt down in front of Ning Shu. Ning Shu steadily watched him kneel down. He didn't avoid him. You wanted to kneel, no one forced you. Qin Ji gritted his teeth. I know I'm a very evil person, but my sister is innocent. I beg you to take my sister away from this place. Ning Shu, then take her away. He didn't want to take a burden, especially a girl. Aren't you afraid that I'll do something to your sister? Giving his sister to a stranger, this was too careless. Qin Ji, I can't leave. I have to stay to atone for my crimes. It doesn't matter if I die, I have to pay for it with my life. But my sister is innocent. Li Yangon wants to give him a taste of his own medicine. He wants to make a move on my sister. Ning Shu made a sound of surprise. His expression was a bit puzzled. Why do I have to take your sister with me? He just read a letter and there was this kind of trouble. If he had known, he would have asked someone else to read the letter. She had proper business. Qin Ji saw that Ning Shu wasn't willing. As long as you are willing to give my sister a way out, she is willing to serve you for life. Ning Shu's face showed disdain. Your sister knows that you sold her out like this. You're still consoling yourself that you're doing this for the sake of her life. It's really tough being your sister. She's clearly been implicated by you, and now she's being sold as a slave. In the end, you're still acting like a good brother and thinking for your sister. Stay to atone for your crimes. You can't let others say that you are a heartless person. If he really wanted to think for his sister, he could take her away from here and start a new life. But he didn't want his reputation to be bad. Maybe it wasn't for his reputation, but for love. No matter what, for Qin Ji's sister, her heart was like a dog's. Qin Ji was speechless because what the other party said was the truth. His thoughts were exposed under the sun. He felt humiliated and uncomfortable. But Qin Ji didn't dare to resent Ning Shu. His sister's life was in his hands. Ning Shu, go and call your sister over. It's great that I lack someone to serve me. Can you cook? Qin Ji happily said, Thank you, Gu Liang. Thank you. Chapter 3974. When Mountain heard that they were going to look for the associated energy again, he cursed, Are you sure? You might run into the Netherworld race as soon as you go. You've seen the character of that race. No matter what, we'll just kill them first. They were completely unreasonable and would not listen to you. If you encountered such a race, you couldn't fight head-on. Compared to the Netherworld race, even the overbearing granduncles seemed more humane. After all, granduncles could talk, but the Netherworld race would not talk to you at all. Everyone pursued as much as possible, but the Netherworld race was completely indifferent to fame and fortune. Only killing was their ultimate goal. There was actually such an otherworldly race in the world. Ning Shu also did not want to go against this race. It's too ugly to have only legs and no feet. It probably doesn't need much associated energy. It's a pity that I didn't get more and grow my feet in one go. This kind of energy is so magical. I want to store more of it. Such a magical thing made Ning Shu want to have a taste of it. He wanted to taste it. Fa Tian and she were born without associated energy. What an incomplete life. Mountain took a deep breath. We have to go. Who knows if we'll run into the Netherworld race. The void is so big, and there's only one Netherworld race. Many new races can be born at the same time. The Netherworld race can't appear at the same time. It was completely a gamble. Ning Shu felt a little guilty when he thought about how unlucky he was. Fa Tian had already prepared his luggage. He said to Ning Shu, Let's go. Mountain immediately asked, Just the two of you? Ning Shu nodded. Yes, just the two of us. We won't bring you this time. Have a good rest. We've been troubling you before. If something really happened, she and Fation would run as fast as they could. Mountain suddenly felt a little disappointed. In the past, he was dragged around by his child. Now, his child suddenly did not need him. Mountain asked, "Are you sure you don't need me to go with you? It's really dangerous for you two cubs to go out. With my figure, I'll be a deterrent even if I stand in a crowd." Moreover, Shanyu wanted to follow him. She couldn't stay at home anymore. It was boring. Perhaps it was because she had done too many challenging things with her cub. Once she calmed down, it became boring. Furthermore, he had fused with 2 Styx river stones, and his overall defense had increased significantly. Thus he was fearless. How many people were willing to beat him up? Shan Yu ignored their rejection and said, "I'll go with you. I'm really worried about you two cubs. Rather than waiting in the clan grounds, I might as well go with you." Ning Shu and Fation looked at each other. "All right, thank you for your hard work." Shan Yu nodded. Ning Shu and Fation set off on Shan Yu's broad shoulders. "In order to avoid the Netherworld race, let's go further away," Ning Shu said. Mountain asked, "Where are we going then?" Fation pondered for a moment. "Why don't we go in the direction of the glacier? It'll be best if we meet some races along the way. Anyway, we're going to the glacier." Ning Shu was a little hesitant. Isn't it a little early to go to the glacier? Her current strength was not very good, mainly because of her poor physical quality. If she had meridians and dantian, her body would be full of energy. She would definitely be able to withstand the ice and snow. Now that her body was weak, she was afraid that she wouldn't succeed in doing things by chance. Shan Yu said, "This place is too far from the glacier. One of us is in the south, and the other is in the north. It'll take a long time to get there. I'm sure we'll go there, and we'll have to pass through many dangerous areas and the clans of other races." Shan Yu didn't expect his cub to be so ambitious and wild. The void was very big, not to mention the distance between the north and the south. Ning Shu exclaimed, "That far? How far is it from here to the clan grounds of the Grand Uncle?" He remembered that it wasn't that far when he went with the little mouse. Shan Yu said, "That's still quite far." Fation frowned. "Can't you do a space jump?" Shan Yu immediately said, "Every step I take is shrinking the earth into an inch. Do you really think I'm walking with my feet?" The void was too big. Even if Shan Yu used shrinking the earth into an inch when he was hurrying, every step he took was not as exaggerated as a small world. Moreover, the clans of some races could be said to be quite large, as if they were endless. Fation gave up the plan to go to the glacier. After all, it was too far and there was no way. He was also a little anxious to become stronger. However, the situation was always somewhat different. Haste makes waste. Ning Shu breathed a sigh of relief. She felt that it was too early to go to the glacier. Not to mention the long distance, climbing mountains and wading through rivers was really too tiring. Moreover, even if they reached the place, the glaciers and the violent snowstorms would be a huge challenge. Ning Shu still had some idea of her own strength. She had a hunch that she would not succeed. Ning Shu said to the disappointed Fation, "Don't worry. Take it slow. Aren't we both still alive now?" Fation urgently wanted to become stronger. Ning Shu understood in her heart. "Don't worry. It's easy to lose your mind when you're anxious. The two of us must survive together." Fation said, I know what I'm doing. Don't worry." After Ning Shu's death, Futian had experienced many things on his own. If he really lost his mind, he might not be able to survive. Since Fation had lost a leg, his strength had been greatly reduced. Moreover, he was alone. If he offended any race, he would die in a matter of minutes. He could even be piled on to death. There was no other way. Fation was alone and did not have the strength to fight with a group of Taishu. What could he do? He could only hide. Ning Shu and Shan Yu asked, "Then where are we going?" The glaciers denied it. Next, they had to find a direction. "Let's find a more desolate place," Fation said. Shan Yu scratched his head. "Desolate? Is there any place more desolate than this?" There was nothing. There were very few living creatures. There were swamps everywhere, bubbling and emitting a rotten stench. Ning Shu, Fation, he was speechless. Before they even left, they had already lost their way. Shan Yu asked, "Shall we go to the lush forest?" Ning Shu shook his head without thinking. The lush forest is too dangerous. There are a lot of races there. If there really are cubs, the Netherworld race will most likely go there. There were a lot of races there. It was simply a killing paradise that the Netherworld race looked forward to. In fact, Fation had seen many races being born there. However, he did not know that he needed the accompanying energy, so he did not pay much attention to it. Seeing some cubs being treated as food by some races, Fation looked on coldly. He did not have the strength to save others. Chapter 3975. Ning Shu was dumbfounded. What did she miss? She seemed to have missed a lot of things. She even had great-grandchildren. She was the one who gave birth to Yaonyang, so these children were actually her great-grandchildren. In the past, she had always been a mother. Now that her seniority had increased, she had become a great-grandmother. She had crossed several generations in a row. Ning Shu had a lot of questions. Who did Yaonyang have so many children with? What kind of wives did they marry? Where did they go? The earthworm snorted. You really don't know? Ning Shu asked, with Hanshin? So they had a good relationship? No. The earthworm's expression was a little ugly. They couldn't get along and couldn't be together. Hanshin was too utilitarian. Ning Shu said, Oh, then are they still here? They went out to hunt for food. The earthworm said, they should be back before sunset. Ning Shu looked at the earthworm. When did you become a human? She had been calling herself a two-legged monster, and now she had become a two-legged monster. How does it feel to walk on two legs? The earthworm's expression was ugly. Of course it's not good. If I wasn't afraid of scaring people, I wouldn't have become a two-legged monster. Ning Shu curled his lips and didn't say anything. The earthworm asked, How did you become like this? Something happened. I died, but then I came back to life and became like this. I slept for a long time. I thought you all died with me. There was nothing that could be explained in a sentence or two. It was too complicated. The earthworm couldn't say anything else. There was no news at all before, and the world was swept by an inexplicable force. Perhaps in a few hundred years, the world would become a desert. It would no longer be suitable for living creatures to live in. Ning Shu looked at the world and knew that it was probably because of the crack that some force from outside the Nine-Palace Mountain entered the world. The world couldn't adapt to this force. It was eating away at the vitality of the world bit by bit. Now, outside the Nine-Palace Mountain was a primitive world full of vitality. This force shouldn't be from the outside world, but from the previous world of reincarnation. This problem wasn't easy to solve. Ning Shu asked, Then what are you doing here? Earthworm, plant trees. Ning Shu? The earthworm said, Set up a barrier at the edge to slow down the spread. However, this kind of barrier needed constant maintenance. If it wasn't maintained, it would definitely be corroded by an inexplicable power. Back when she was young, Yaonyang had traveled far and wide. When she arrived at this place, she immediately noticed that something was amiss. Wherever the wind blew, the life force here would be corroded. When Yaonyang returned, she told the earthworm about this matter. The earthworm had experienced the transformation of a world into a reincarnation world. If that was the case, the body of a living being would be corroded. If he hadn't come to this level and stayed in the world of reincarnation, he would have become a soul. Therefore, he had no choice but to come over and keep watch. Moreover, Ning Shu had not appeared for a long time. Unable to find a solution, he left a letter for Ning Shu and left. Hanshin didn't want to eat sand. When the hot wind with sand blew on his face, it could take away all the moisture on his face. A person's face was always dry. Moreover, it aged people. Hanshin didn't want to go, but Yaonyang felt that it was necessary to go and take a look. Moreover, if it was under control, there might be a solution when her aunt came back. If it wasn't under control and spread, everyone wouldn't have a good time. Even if her aunt came back and had a solution, it was too bad. There was nothing she could do. Han Shen thought that Yao Nyang would no longer be as naive and sweet as before after experiencing so many things. However, she was still like this, which disappointed him. Yao Nyang knew that Han Shen didn't like to meddle in other people's business, but she didn't expect his reaction to be so big. She didn't force him and said that he could come to them if he needed anything. After parting ways, Han Shen never appeared again. Yao Nyang and the others stayed at the edge of the desert. Yao Nyang's husband was a traveler. He met Yao Nyang in the desert and she saved him and dragged him home. The traveler didn't leave again. Instead, he lived with Yao Nyang and the others. Naturally, he was with Yao Nyang. Ning Shu was a little surprised. He thought that Yao Nyang only had Han Shen. At least she liked Han Shen in her heart. But now, she was with another man. Seeing Ning Shu's surprised expression, Earthworm said with some surprise, Yao Nyang has been waiting for Han Shen, but he hasn't appeared. This young man is a very interesting and sunny man. At least, Yao Nyang is very happy to be with him. Han Shen always had a cold expression on his face. Who knew what he was trying to do by looking like he was at the top all day long? Life was different when you were with an interesting person. This young man and Han Shen were two completely different men. Earthworm looked at Ning Shu. Do you think more of Han Shen? As a son-in-law who lived with him day and night, Earthworm naturally favored Yao Nyang's current husband. Ning Shu shook his head. I like whoever Yao Nyang likes. What does Han Shen have to do with me? Only then did Earthworm's expression improve. He beckoned the children who were looking outside to come in and introduced them to Ning Shu one by one. When it was time to introduce Ning Shu, Earthworm suddenly didn't know how to introduce Ning Shu. Ning Shu said directly, Your grandmother calls me aunt. So you want to call me great-grandmother? Although Ning Shu was only a child now, he didn't have the slightest intention of lowering his seniority. Great-grandmother? You're still a child. You must be lying. As expected, Ning Shu's appearance and seniority were too different. These children were filled with righteous indignation. How could he let them call him great-grandmother? It was too unforgivable. Ning Shu snorted. It's fine if you don't believe me. You'll know when your grandmother comes back. By the way, where are their parents? Ning Shu asked. They went to the city to trade for things. After all, we still have to live, Earthworm said. Ning Shu looked at Earthworm with a complicated expression. Everyone has things to do. What's your job? I have to look after the children. Do you know how hard it is to take care of children? They'll run away in a while. It's so tiring and exhausting. Perhaps because Ning Shu's expression was too disgusted, he tried to explain himself. Oh, Ning Shu replied indifferently. Taking care of children was indeed an Earthworm's job. The 4 children ran out of the house and made faces at Ning Shu. I don't want to call you great-grandmother. Ning Shu was incomparably calm. You will. Someone will teach you how to be a person. Ha! Qin Wanhua was at a loss and couldn't get a word in. The counterattack of the cannon fodder supporting character. Chapter 3976. Someone said, It's not a big deal. If it doesn't work, we can just raise these babies and raise them into our own race. Everyone turned their heads to look at him. This idea was really indescribably strange. However, it was in line with the character of the divine stone race. Of course, some people said that it was best to kill them in the cradle. Of course, even if they killed them, it didn't mean that they wouldn't be born in the future. If something that could suppress their race was born, it meant that it was time for them to return to the void. If they killed this one, it would be born again. However, raising them was a good idea. If there was something that could suppress their race, the void wouldn't give birth to new things to suppress them. Ning Shu was speechless. Could it be that he could see a scene of natural enemies living in harmony in this lifetime? After such a noisy discussion, the atmosphere was not as tense as before. Ning Shu and Shan Yu asked, Are you really going to raise them? Shan Yu was also helpless. He spread out his hands and said, What else can we do? Do we have to be like the other races and kill their babies on the road of no return? Do you really think that those races are really greedy? Even if we kill them once, new ones will be born. We have no choice but to keep killing them. But the void is so big. If the babies that suppress our own race are born far away, we won't be able to make it in time. So everyone helps each other. No matter who they suppress, we kill them first. If we kill them indiscriminately, even if the babies that suppress our own race are born far away, there will be others helping. Ning Shu was speechless. In the face of death, all races and living beings were the same. No matter if they were strong or noble or weak or lowly. They were all resistant, fearful, and struggling. The divine stone race would probably live in fear of death in the future. In fact, they wouldn't die immediately. Even if there was a race that could suppress them, these babies would need a long time to grow up. If there was a conflict, they would definitely be crushed. No one liked to be crushed, especially now that these races were still babies. It wouldn't be right if they didn't kill them in the cradle. So we either raise them or ignore them? Ning Shu asked. We can't ignore them. It's good to keep this race under our eyes. We don't have to raise them. We can just live next to them. Ning Shu sighed. This was truly a sad thing. In the past, he only saw all the races killing their young. It was extremely cruel. But in reality, this was a threat of death. When it came to him, he knew what it felt like. With a feeling of desperation mixed with desire, it devoured the cubs. Ning Shu felt that he was one with the divine stone race, so naturally he was very worried about the fate of the divine stone race. Without the divine stone race, Ning Shu felt that he had no one to rely on and had no roots. Other races appeared one after another, and the energy fluctuations were getting stronger and stronger. It had already attracted many races over. The other races were surprised to see the divine stone race moving out. Generally speaking, the divine stone clan kept a low profile. To put it bluntly, they were lazy. They didn't move much and didn't kill their young. This time, all of them moved out, leaving everyone extremely shocked. Soon after, there were some intelligent clans that thought of something, looking at the divine stone clan meaningfully. When it came to the fate of their race, no matter how lazy they were, they would still move. No one wanted to die. When Shan Yu saw other races appear, his expression was not worried. If they killed their young, the unlucky ones would be their race in the end. They would constantly give birth to cubs that targeted their race. Shan Yu felt that not only could they not kill, but they also had to protect the cubs. Ning Shu also felt a headache coming. Shan Yu was already protecting the unborn race under his wings. Fa Tian didn't care about this matter, as long as he could get a little bit of accompanying energy and grow his leg back. The energy fluctuations were getting stronger and stronger, indicating that the cubs were about to be born. Who knew what kind of race would be born in such a desolate place? The Divine Stone clan gathered together and whispered in each other's ears, discussing how to deal with the cubs that were about to be born. Every time he saw the Divine Stone clan's clan meeting, Ning Shu felt a little like a primary school student in a class. One by one, they raised their hands to speak, and in the end, there were usually several opinions. In any case, Ning Shu felt tired just by watching and listening to them. In summary, they were divided into two factions. One faction decided to raise the newly born race, and the other was too lazy to care about the race and let it fend for itself. Regardless of whether he was eaten by the other races or survived, he would just let nature take its course. Whatever happened would happen. In the opinions of these two factions, they didn't say that they wanted to kill the race with their own hands. Ning Shu listened to these people and sighed in his heart. This was really a lazy and kind race. Fortunately, Ning Shu was able to live until now because of them. As for these cubs, the Divine Stone clan didn't think about killing them. The Divine Stone clan occupied one side. Their large size and large numbers squeezed the other races to the side. They stood in the narrow space, feeling wronged. However, the Divine Stone clan didn't notice at all. They were discussing how to deal with the newly born cubs, and their saliva was flying everywhere. In the end, they couldn't come to a consensus. Shan Yu asked Ning Shu, "What do you think?" What was the point of kicking the ball to others? Ning Shu didn't want to make a choice. "I think it's good, very good." Shan Yu said, "You're so unreliable." Then he asked for Fa Tian's opinion. "What do you think?" Fa Tian raised his head silently. There was a shadow between his eyebrows. His tone was a bit gloomy. He said ruthlessly, "Why don't we kill all of them?" Shan Yu was surprised. "I shouldn't have asked you." In the end, Shan Yu said, "Then we'll see. If there are many of them, we won't care. If there are few, we'll raise them." A clansman asked, "You said the opposite. If there are many of them, we'll raise them. If there are few, we won't care?" Shan Yu choked. "It's the same. As long as you understand." Ning Shu was speechless. The meaning was completely different. The energy waves were getting stronger and stronger. The cubs were about to be born. Everyone present was nervous. They didn't know what to feel about the newly born race. Everyone waited in the desolate place for the cubs to be born. Ning Shu was very curious about what the race that restrained the Divine Stone clan looked like. The energy waves were surging. Even Ning Shu, who couldn't feel the energy waves, felt his ears ring. Gusts of wind blew into his ears. His ears were very uncomfortable. Everyone was ready. Shan Yu was even pacing back and forth. He looked like a father waiting for a newborn at the door of the delivery room. Ning Shu was thunderstruck. He didn't know if they were looking forward to this race or hated it. Chapter 3977. Ning Shu was worried about the wound on his shoulder. He did not know what kind of poison it was, and it was not easy to detoxify it. Ever since he was poisoned, his body had been weak and he could not summon any strength. It was a good thing that the black fog wanted to reclaim the poison. Mountain, who was standing in front of Ning Shu, paused for a moment and then moved aside. However, he still looked at the black fog warily and said to Ning Shu, "You are too careless to let him detoxify the poison. What if he cuts your neck?" Ning Shu said, "Who knows? Let's see." The black fog floated in front of Ning Shu. She looked at the black fog nervously. The black fog reached out its sickle. Ning Shu saw the sickle and gulped. He said, "Be gentler." Before he could finish his words, the scythe pierced his wound mercilessly. There was no hesitation at all. It was a clean and efficient move. If the black fog had a face, it would probably have a cold and emotionless face. Ning Shu could clearly feel that the scythe had pierced deep into her body, causing a second wound on her shoulder. Soon, the black fog indifferently withdrew the scythe. Blood flowed out of the wound. It was red and no longer black. It meant that the wound was no longer poisoned. The sickle had really reclaimed the poison. The Black Fog tribe was really thrifty. Ning Shu grimaced in pain. He wanted to apologize, but the wound was too painful. He was angry and did not want to thank the Black Fog. "You poked me like this and you still have to thank me. I am so angry." The Black Fog reclaimed the poison and then stared at the Divine Stone tribe. Everyone who was stared at could not help but feel nervous. They all had a creepy feeling. The atmosphere was heavy. It seemed that the Black Fog wanted to kill the Divine Stone tribe. The Black Fog was born to kill. Now that it saw the Divine Stone tribe, which was not a cub, its desire to kill was stirred up. Mountain stood in front of his tribesmen. He looked at the Black Fog and shouted, "I tell you, you can't beat us alone." Mountain did not know if the Black Fog could understand what he was saying, or if it knew how to judge and analyze the current situation. Although Black Fog was alone now, with his special physique, Mountain felt that he could single-handedly defeat their entire tribe. After all, the Divine Stone clan was clumsy and heavy, while the Netherworld clan was extremely fast. The Black Fog might not be able to kill them, but the Divine Stone clan couldn't do anything to the Black Fog either. Ning Shu watched from the side without saying a word. The Netherworld race's intelligence wasn't very high, and they might not necessarily be obedient. Not killing the cubs did not mean that they would absolutely not kill the cubs. A thick murderous aura condensed in the air, and a battle was about to break out. Shan Yu said to Ning Shu solemnly, "You are hiding. It seems that there is going to be a fight." The Netherworld race was too aggressive. The desire to kill was carved into their bones. Ning Shu was too weak to be of any help right now. He ran a little further away and stood on a rock to look over there. He thought that after releasing the Black Fog, it would leave to find its own people. Who would have thought that the Black Fog would challenge the Divine Stone clan alone? Convinced, Ning Shu shouted to Shan Yu and the others, "You guys be careful." Shan Yu stretched his muscles, and the rocks on his body creaked. He laughed and said, "Don't worry, the defense of our clan is no joke. We haven't fought for a long time. We also need to understand this clan, so that we can be prepared for the future." Since the birth of the Netherworld race, many clans had been preparing for war. The black fog was very fast. It disappeared almost instantly and reappeared behind Shan Yu. It raised its scythe and slashed at Shan Yu's neck. The scythe and the rock and metal on Shan Yu's body created sparks, and a series of sparks flew. Shan Yu touched his neck and laughed. He was very happy that his strong defense had allowed him to avoid the fatal attack. The black fog changed its target and attacked the other clansmen. After attacking several people in a row, the Divine Stone clan survived because of their strong defense. Although the black fog didn't have a face, it made people feel that it was a little lost. Obviously, it hadn't found a way to break the defense of the Divine Stone clan. It was thinking and attacking the Divine Stone clan again and again. Of course, the Divine Stone clan didn't just stand there and wait to be beaten. They took out their stone hammers and kept hitting the black fog like they were playing whack-a-mole. However, the black fog was too fast. Out of 10 hits, it didn't hit. Even if it hit and scattered the black fog, it quickly gathered again. It was the same as before, and it didn't seem to cause any damage to the black fog. Instead, it kept hitting the black fog with the hammers, and it was so tired that it was panting. Ning Shu carefully observed the situation of the battle between the two sides. Indeed, neither side could do anything to the other. One had a strong defense, and the other was fast. Even if the black fog was hit by the hammers and its body was scattered, it didn't show any signs of pain. Could it be that the black fog couldn't feel pain? Could it be that it was in the form of a fog without a physical body, or organs, so it couldn't feel pain? This was a very scary thing. Not only was the desire to kill strong, but it also didn't feel pain. This was a very scary thing. Feeling pain would limit one's actions and thoughts. Without pain, there was nothing that could stop the Netherworld clan from killing. The two sides fought fiercely. In the beginning, Ning Shu was still very nervous, worried that someone from the Divine Stone clan would be killed. However, as time went on, the two sides fought back and forth. They fought for a long time without any accidents. It was a bit like they were having fun. Both sides hit each other, and in the end, Ning Shu propped up his chin and yawned as he watched the two sides fight. The black fog stopped attacking. The Divine Stone clan was also tired and panting. They almost stuck out their tongues. After attacking so many times, they still couldn't kill a single person. No matter how low the intelligence of the Netherworld clan was, they felt that they couldn't continue fighting. The black fog turned around and disappeared in an instant. He probably went back to his clan. As soon as he left, the Divine Stone clan's clansmen all fell to the ground. They were too tired. It was finally over. Shan Yu panted. "Oh my God, I'm so tired. It hurt so much." Everyone was grimacing in pain. Some of the clansmen were lying on the ground, moaning. Although the black fog couldn't kill the Divine Stone clan, the injuries on their bodies were real. It was very painful. Ning Shu jumped between the rocks and landed in front of Shan Yu. He asked, "How much damage did you guys take?" Once it exceeded the limit, the Divine Stone clan would be in trouble. The other clansmen said, "Our defense is still not strong enough. We shouldn't stay here and not move. We should go out and find some good stones and metals." After being beaten up, they felt uneasy. Chapter 3978. The barrier was set up by Earthworm. In the beginning it was quite useful, but later on, it was completely useless. The sandstorm directly spread behind the barrier. The barrier was like a wall, but now it seemed that the wall was no longer working. At most, it could only slow down the speed of its spread. The power of the sandstorm was getting stronger. Ning Shu ate the food. It tasted pretty good. Compared to Hanshin, Shidong was indeed a man who knew how to live. Hanshin probably walked the path of ruthlessness. He didn't care about the mortal world and walked the path of nobility. Earthworm picked up food for Ning Shu. Seeing how much she ate, he thought, no wonder she was so fat. It was probably because she was reborn and had a body. In the end, she didn't have self-discipline and ate so much that she became as fat as a pig. Earthworm also knew about the world of reincarnation. He knew that living things had to be reborn after death. However, Ning Shu could remember the past, which surprised Earthworm. The rebirth pool could wash away the 7 emotions and 6 desires and memories in the soul. Perhaps because she was stronger, Earthworm was forced to board a stolen car. Furthermore, it was a stolen car with a dead car door. He felt aggrieved, but he couldn't deny her strength. In such a situation, Earthworm and Yao Nyang subconsciously relied on Ning Shu. Shidong was just an ordinary person. He knew that Yao Nyang's uncle wasn't an ordinary person, so Yao Nyang's aunt wasn't an ordinary person either. In any case, he couldn't do anything about it. He could only rely on them. He had to go to the crack to take a look. If it didn't work, he would just dig a small hole. If it could prevent the sandstorm from spreading, it would be fine too. 9 Palace Mountain was she spent too much effort on it. Now that 9 Palace Mountain wasn't by her side, she still had to worry about it. After eating, Qin Wanhua, who had fainted from fright, packed her things and was about to leave. When she saw Ning Shu enter the room, she shouted to her, "Miss, there's a monster here." "There's a monster?" "Oh," Ning Shu replied. "Where are you going after leaving this place?" Qin Wanhua paused. She remembered that she had already sold herself to her as a slave and couldn't leave. However, when she thought of that huge tail, Qin Wanhua felt unwell. Her body couldn't help but tremble in fear. Ning Shu could understand. Qin Wanhua was just an ordinary person. She would definitely be afraid when facing such an extraordinary existence. Instead of living in fear, it would be better to leave this place. There were some things that couldn't be accepted, so there was no need to force it. Then leave. I never wanted you to serve me. I'll leave soon. Let Yao Nyang take you away. Ning Shu told Yao Nyang about this matter. Yao Nyang frowned as she looked at Qin Wanhua. Don't tell me that you've spread rumors about my uncle. He has sharp ears and eyes, and he can hear things from far away. Qin Wanhua quickly shook her head. No, I won't. Her worldview had collapsed. Everyone who lived here was Yao Nyang's family, and she didn't wish for an outsider to live here. Since she was leaving, Yao Nyang was actually happy. If she couldn't accept it, then she wouldn't force it. Yao Nyang's chi energy was in the form of a fiery bird. Its entire body was burning with flames, and it was very large. Yao Nyang grabbed Qin Zhuanhua's collar and jumped onto the back of the fiery bird. Qin Wanhua fainted again. Ning Shu shook his head. She was too timid. It was getting late. Ning Shu decided to get a good night's sleep and go to the crack the next day. Ning Shu was very calm when he was with Earthworm and the others. Such a peaceful life was indeed very calming. After a good sleep, when he woke up for breakfast, Yao Nyang had already returned. Breakfast was made by Shidong. It was a big pot of century egg and lean meat porridge. There were so many people, including a few children. Everyone ate to their heart's content. There were delicious pickles on the table. Ning Shu asked Yao Nyang how she had arranged for Qin Wanhua. Yao Nyang said, "Actually, I know some people outside. I sent her to a sect to be a handyman. For my sake, her life shouldn't be too difficult." Ning Shu nodded. He had already done everything he could. He and Qin Wanhua were just strangers who had met by chance. Ning Shu drank 2 bowls of century egg and lean meat porridge. He wiped his mouth and said, "I'm going to take a look. You guys eat slowly." Earthworm put down his chopsticks. "I'll go with you." The children immediately asked, "Great-grandpa, where are you going?" "We want to go too." Yao Nyang stopped the children. "Stop fooling around. Your great-grandpa has something important to do." Shidong prepared a large amount of water for Ning Shu and Earthworm. Crossing the desert was not an easy task. Moreover, the desert was windy all year round. Back then, he was blown away by a tornado. Fortunately, he met Yao Nyang. Otherwise, he would have died. Seeing that Ning Shu seemed to have eaten a lot, he prepared some dry biscuits and brought them along. Ning Shu saw that Shidong had prepared so well. He looked like an elder who was gratified. "You're good. Very good." She was just a little radish head. It was a little funny for her to act like this. Of course, these things were carried by Earthworm. The family sent Ning Shu and Earthworm to the edge of the desert. A hot wind blew over, carrying the sand. Ning Shu opened his mouth to speak and was caught off guard and ate a mouthful of sand. Even in the morning, the sand was boiling hot. Ning Shu spat out the sand in his mouth, and his teeth chattered. Ning Shu and Earthworm stepped into the desert and disappeared into the wind and sand. Ning Shu stepped on the sand with one foot and the heat waves rolled. In just a short while, Ning Shu felt that the water on his face had been sucked dry. His face hurt. Ning Shu asked, "How long are we going to walk for? Why don't we just do a space jump?" The biggest problem with a space jump was not knowing the direction. Why don't they just leave the world and dig a hole outside Nine Palace Mountain? Earthworm thought it was fat and delicate. After it was born, it became so delicate after it had a body. Earthworm returned to its original form. It was a big black earthworm with pitch-black scales all over its body. "Come on up. It'll be faster." Ning Shu jumped onto Earthworm's back without hesitation. The earthworm quickly began to move like a snake. It slithered across the sand, leaving behind a series of curved tracks. It was very fast, but Ning Shu didn't dare to open his mouth. If he did, his mouth would be full of sand. Earthworm's speed wasn't slow either. Occasionally, it would stop to replenish its water. Ning Shu was shocked. So much of the desert has become desertified? It had only been a day. According to Earthworm's speed, at least 1/5 of the world had become desertified. Earthworm nodded. Yes. Previously, there was a barrier that could slow it down a little, but now it's useless. Ning Shu sighed. He didn't know if his method would work. Moreover, if it was dug through, would the outside world also become desertified? However, when the stellar stone was almost completely corroded, it would also be connected to the outside world. It was only a matter of time. The canon Fodder female supporting character counterattack. The canon Fodder female supporting character counterattack. Chapter 3979. There were too many perverts in the outside world. Why were the cubs now like this? Why were the cubs now so powerful? They were all about to ascend to the heavens. The old races in the void felt that the sky was about to change. They were about to be eliminated. The new races were each more strange and perverted than the previous. Perhaps they were used to peace and were used to a long and dull life. The new races were obviously not peace-loving. This made them very uncomfortable. They were forced to be nervous and anxious. Everyone looked at this cub as if they were looking at a monster. He ate everything, whether it was stones or other things. It was as if there was nothing in the void that he didn't eat. But after eating so much, why was he still yellow and emaciated? Oh my God, terrifying. Such a cub was too terrifying to live like this. In front of everyone, this cub finished eating an arm, but he still shouted that he was hungry. "I'm so hungry, I'm so hungry." His expression became more and more distorted. He was filled with irritation and uneasiness. Because he was hungry and couldn't get satisfied, he became abnormally anxious and violent. When Ning Shu saw this cub, he couldn't help but have a toothache. This was simply a bottomless pit. He didn't know when he would finish eating. Probably when he felt full, he would return to the embrace of the void. Seeing that this cub was about to explode in anger, he looked very scary with his teeth bared. Theon protected Ning Shu behind him and whispered, "Hide at the side. You will probably be very tender to eat like this." Ning Shu was speechless. "Please don't be like this. I'm not a steamed bun." He made it sound like she was food. But in this cub's eyes, she was indeed food. Everything was food. This was really. Seeing that Ning Shu didn't believe him, Theon whispered, "Don't doubt it. Among this group of people, you have the most energy. Since it's food, he will definitely pick the one with more energy. It's just that there are so many people and he hasn't noticed you yet." Ning Shu thought of the tumor in his head. That was an ultimate martial art. In terms of energy, it definitely had more energy. Thinking of this possibility, Ning Shu immediately shrank to the back of the crowd, trying to reduce his presence. She didn't want to be eaten. Shan Yu took out a stick stone and handed it to the refugee child who was crying piteously for food. Eat this. The refugee child was stunned for a moment. Clearly, he did not expect that someone would take the initiative to give him something to eat. What he meant was to eat something with energy in the void. Earth was also a type of energy, but it didn't have a good texture. The energy he had just eaten had a soft texture. The refugee child took the Styx River stone and bit it. With a cracking sound, a crack appeared on the Styx River stone. It seemed to be a little strenuous for him to chew, but at least he was chewing slowly. However, the entire divine stone race was stupefied. They were stupefied. This was Underworld River stone. It could be said to be an extremely hard object. What kind of teeth did he have? Oh my God, he could even chew through the river Styx. Nibbling on them would be like nibbling on tofu. It was too pathetic. It was certain that this cub was the bane of their race. As for the other races, they didn't have much defense anyway, so it was easier to eat them. Although the Styx River stone was very hard, the refugee children were still very happy to eat it. They chewed slowly, and there was a dreamy and happy expression on their faces. However, the others weren't happy. They only felt pain in their balls and horror. When they saw that the cub's attention was on the Styx River stone, they all slipped away. They couldn't afford to offend him and ran away. The burly man who was missing an arm took deep breaths. He looked very unconvinced, but when he saw the cub hugging the stone and crunching it, he couldn't help but swallow his anger. He could only swallow this resentment and hatred. He turned around and left bitterly, covering his wound. His back view was very bleak. It was because of this emptiness that only the divine stone race was present. While the child was still chewing on the stone, they began to gather and whisper to each other for a clan meeting. Clansman A, oh my God, if we raise this plaything, it'll be like a mouse falling into a rice jar. When it's hungry, it'll bite us. I can't stand it, I can't stand it. Clansman B, yes, let him eat others. Don't bring him back. I'm afraid that when I wake up from my sleep, my lower body will be gone. If he couldn't even sleep well, what fun was there in life? Oh my God. Mountain didn't say anything. He looked like he was deep in thought. Everyone was discussing. When it was Mountain's turn to speak, he suddenly looked at Ning Shu. The love in his eyes was almost overflowing. Ning Shu's black face was filled with question marks. What was going on? Be normal. This was a big matter for the race. Mountain said to Ning Shu, with this cub as a comparison, I think you're really good. You're like an angel. Without comparison, there would be no harm. Without comparison, there would be no happiness. Ning Shu was speechless. What was going on? Ning Shu, you want to keep this cub? Mountain took a deep breath. It was as if he had a toothache. He was very conflicted. Obviously, Mountain wanted to keep this child. But it was just as his clansman had said. If he kept this child, it would be very dangerous for his clansmen. It would be very unfair to his clansmen. He couldn't disturb the peace of his race because of an outsider. To Mountain, the most important thing was his clansmen. Mountain sighed. In the end, he gave up on adopting this child. It was very dangerous, but he couldn't keep lay with him. Mountain gave the child a stick stone. The stick stone was very hard and could be eaten for a long time. When his attention was on the food, they could run. Seeing that Mountain was wasting the stick stone, the clansmen's eyes bulged. They stared at Mountain but didn't say anything. Thus, everyone started to count to 3 and started to run. The tremors caused the ground to tremble. The cub held the stone and stared blankly at the clansmen. Then he staggered and followed. The clansmen in front of them were running wildly. When they saw the child behind them, he staggered and looked like he would fall to the ground in the next second. He looked helpless, weak, and pitiful. But the God's Stone clan in front of them looked like they had seen a ghost. They sped up, but they couldn't get rid of the cub behind them. Why don't you fall? Why don't you fall and cry? Why are you stumbling? How can you run so fast? The God's Stone clan was really desperate. Very desperate. Some clansmen had tears in their eyes. Don't ask me why I'm crying. It's because I'm scared. The cub kept chasing but couldn't catch up. Then he really started crying and shouted, I'm so hungry. Chapter 3980. The newly born races were beautiful and cute. More importantly, they were very clean. Not only were they not stained with blood, but they also gave off an ethereal feeling. After the transparent bubble burst, the flower fairy flapped her little transparent wings and tried to fly up. This kind of clean and beautiful race looked very appetizing and delicious. Ning Shu and Mountain also swallowed their saliva. It was not because they were hungry, but because of other reasons. Especially when they saw the eager and drooling faces of the races present, Ning Shu and Mountain could not help but want to cover their faces. They could not bear to look. Doing this in front of the Netherworld race was really courting death. More and more cubs were born. The sky was filled with beautiful cubs. Some people could no longer hold back and took the initiative to catch the cubs. When the newly born cubs saw this situation, they were all frightened and flapped their wings. The cubs who were caught were so frightened that they turned pale and trembled. They closed their eyes and waited for death. The races present were all tempted. They were afraid that the cubs would be snatched by others if they were too slow. The cubs flying in the sky stumbled and tried to avoid being caught. When they saw their own clansmen being caught, they all cried and sobbed softly. They wanted to go forward and save them, but they were incomparably afraid. At this time, the Netherworld race began to move. In an instant, those who were still standing in the same place disappeared. When they reappeared, they had already raised their sides and cut off the necks of others. The head and the brain were separated from the body. They were still holding the cubs that were struggling powerlessly. Their faces were full of hunger. In an instant, a life was lost. Many other races fell down one after another. Fresh blood spurted out and splashed on the grass. The grass was pressed down, and drops of blood dripped from the tip of the leaves. The sudden situation stunned many people. Some of the races that were still alive retreated a few steps. They did not go to catch the cubs immediately. Instead, they were on guard against the Netherworld race. What's wrong with you? Why are you killing people instead of snatching the cubs? This was simply crazy. In this situation, instead of snatching the cubs, you killed people. It gave people the impression that you could not snatch the cubs and then killed them out of anger. What the hell? What kind of race was this? They did not know the rules and did not have a body. What kind of monsters were they? Basically, as long as it was a void creature, it would always have a body, and those without a body like this were monsters. All the void creatures present looked at the Netherworld race with disdain. It was as if they were looking at a handicapped person. It felt a little strange. It was simply underdeveloped. Mountain, I can't even bear to watch. The next scene would definitely be bloody, and his young heart would not be able to bear it. Ning Shu, oh my God, the world of adults is so scary. I don't want to grow up anymore. The Netherworld race's reason for massacring them was to protect their cubs. If they wanted to kill their cubs, then they would kill them. If nothing unexpected happened, the Netherworld race would be strolling around the entire void, and they would even appear at the place where their young were born. At that time, the name of the Netherworld race would resound throughout the entire void, and countless races would be slaughtered. Eating cubs would become a thing of the past. Eating cubs meant that they would be slaughtered by the Netherworld race. Was life more important, or was it the desire for good food and a little bit of pure energy? Of course, their lives were more important. Under this kind of pressure, no living being dared to treat their lives as a joke. Although they had lived for a long time, once they died, they were completely dead. Not even a trace of their corpses was left behind. From all the signs, it seemed that the birth of the Netherworld race was a method of controlling the void. The living beings present relied on their numbers and faintly joined forces to fight against the Netherworld race. They felt that the Netherworld race was new and wanted to reason with them. This was not how they snatched things. They were completely unreasonable. If they did not know the rules, then they would teach them the rules. The Netherworld race did not listen to these people at all. They simply slaughtered the races under their control. Any living being targeted by the Netherworld race would definitely not be able to escape. Hey, what's the matter with you guys? The situation was somewhat unexpected, and these people did not expect it at all. Although there was a lot of blood splattered on the black scythe, it could not be seen. Layer after layer of blood shrouded the scythe with a thick aura of death. Ning Shu looked at this slaughter feast. It was completely a one-sided slaughter. None of these dead creatures had a complete body. All of them had incomplete limbs. Not even a complete corpse was left. The energy in these bodies would quickly return to the void and return to the embrace of the void. Seeing that these incomplete smoke creatures did not seem to understand and only knew how to kill, the living beings did not care about the newly born. At this time, it was already a question whether they could keep their lives. What was the point of eating? One by one, they fled in panic. However, it was impossible to escape. When they turned around, a black shadow followed them like a shadow, holding a scythe. The sickle pierced into the body and pierced through. Then it was pulled out, causing a large wound on the body. The wound was bleeding and it was black blood. The poison on the scythe made people unable to move, and they became prey to be slaughtered. Ning Shu took a deep breath. As expected, it was better not to grow up. The Netherworld race was slightly more merciful to the young, but when it came to mature living beings, they were ruthless. Everyone was a proud and arrogant void race. Who would be afraid of you? They were talking nicely to you, but you acted like this. Then there was no other way. They could only work together to kill this race. This was breaking the rules. Everyone had a tacit understanding of the rules. This guy was completely messing around. There was a need to teach him a lesson. No matter how weak the void race was, they still had innate skills. It was impossible to give birth to a useless race. Seeing that the situation was getting worse, this new race was very reckless. They did not care about what others said and only knew how to kill. They did not care about rules or unspoken rules at all. They felt like they were beating an old master to death with their fists. They could only work together to kill this race. The place where birds sang and flowers were fragrant suddenly became bloody. Corpses were everywhere, and the earth shook when they fought. The Netherworld race was very fast. Their figures could not be seen clearly, and they did not feel pain. Even if they were hit, they would disperse the smoke and quickly condense again. It was the kind that could not be killed. It was really very despairing. Exhausting people to death and exhausting their energy, but in the end, nothing happened to the other party. This was too cruel. The newly born children hugged each other and trembled. They had just been born, so why did they have to go through this? They were still children. It was very sad to face such a baptism at birth. The scene was very bloody. Ning Shu and Mountain watched from afar, not daring to get close. Chapter 3981. Ning Shu answered Go Zi's questions one by one. On the phone, these are all things from the outside world. I can't eat them. It's so sad. The puppy said sadly as he ate furiously. You can eat them when you go to the living world. Food is the energy that humans use to extend their lives. If you don't eat, you will starve to death. Ning Shu said to Go Zi. Go Zi asked, how can I get others to give me food? Ning Shu looked at him. Maybe being a stray dog is a good choice. A kind and cute girl will feed you some food. Go Zi's watery eyes lit up. Is that really okay? Ning Shu nodded. Of course, it would be even better if you could find a poop picker. When you look at people, you have to look at them with your innocent and watery eyes. Yes, that's how you look now. Ning Shu was trying his best to create a pitiful puppy who would beg for food by acting cute. Although Go Zi was tempted, he felt that something was wrong. But it was good to get food this way. If it didn't work, it was not bad to use blessings in exchange for food. Go Zi's heart softened a little. What did you ask me about earlier? Ning Shu said, I need the faith of the heavenly Tao. But I didn't find where to get the faith of the heavenly Tao from the birthplace. You should know, right? Go Zi shook his head. I don't know. I rarely leave the world of reincarnation. Also, why do you want to find the faith of the heavenly Tao from the birthplace? Because I need this thing. Didn't you get the faith of the heavenly Tao when you entered the world? Go Zi followed him to that world. Ning Shu nodded. I got it. Go Zi said. Then why do you still want to find it? Ning Shu said. Because it's too little and too slow. Go Zi looked at Ning Shu with condemnation. How can you do this? Because the faith of the heavenly Tao is too little in your own world, you want to snatch the faith of the birthplace. Ning Shu was speechless. Gozi looked at Ning Shu. Don't lie to me. Although I have been in the world of reincarnation, there are many souls there. You're doing this because your soul is weak, so you want to snatch the soul power of others. You're so bad. They couldn't earn money themselves, so they had to resort to robbery. Ning Shu was speechless. There was actually no way to refute this. There was nothing wrong with this logic. Under Go Zi's wet eyes, there was nowhere to hide. Go Zi said, I won't tell you and I really don't know. Friend, your morals are flawed. You can't do this. You helped the small world, and the heavenly axiom rewarded you. Isn't this the fairest and best situation? Zi tilted his head and looked at Ning Shu, questioning him from the bottom of his soul. Ning Shu was speechless. He had nothing to say to a dog's question. Sun Qi, what do you think? Ning Shu, I think you're right. Go, Zi, then are you still looking for the faith power of the heavenly axiom? The small world is born in the place of birth, and the small world gives the faith power of the heavenly axiom to the place of birth. Isn't that natural? What right do you have to snatch from others? Ning Shu was speechless. I'll go back and look for the ultimate martial arts. The ultimate martial arts will be mine anyway. Ning Shu took away all the food in front of Go Zi. You want to eat my food? Dream on. Go Zi looked at Ning Shu with an innocent gaze. How can you do this? He turned his face mercilessly. Ning Shu snorted. He opened the bit wall and was about to leave. Go Zi instantly shouted, Oh right, don't open the bit wall so easily. Ning Shu left the world of reincarnation and returned to the clan land. He heard a bunch of righteous words that were like whipping Ning Shu's conscience. Okay, let's go and get the faith power of the heavenly axiom. The ultimate martial arts probably didn't have much faith power of the heavenly axiom. After all, it hadn't been long since the world was born. But as time passed, the ultimate martial arts would get a lot of faith power of the heavenly axiom. Actually, Ning Shu didn't have to go to other places of birth to look for the faith power of the heavenly axiom. The ultimate martial arts itself was a treasure trove. It was just that he didn't get much. Ning Shu calmed down. He waited for the ultimate martial arts to accumulate while he entered the small world to earn faith power. He believed that he would be able to reconstruct his meridians very soon. This was really exciting news. He felt great. With such a treasure trove, did he need to go to other places of birth to defend the champion? There was no need. Ning Shu, who thought it through, felt really comfortable. Suddenly, he felt a burning sensation on his wrist. It was the feeling of his meridians being reconstructed. After a while, Ning Shu took a look. He realized that one of the meridians had spread to his elbow. It was at his wrist before, but now it had reached his elbow. If he wasn't wrong, it might be the ultimate martial arts that had reconstructed it for him. The reconstruction this time was much longer than the last time. Obviously, he had gained a lot. Ning Shu was very happy. The longer his meridians were, the more power he could store, and he would become stronger. Therefore, the problem of his meridians wouldn't be a problem in the future. Maybe it would be solved soon. Some things had to be solved, and some anger had to be vented. Happiness was the most important. Ning Shu started to store power in his meridians. Previously, he could only use it twice. Now, he should be able to use it 10 or 20 times. He didn't need to use it sparingly. Ning Shu, I'm back. Ning Shu was still cultivating when he vaguely heard Fa Tian's voice. He opened his eyes and saw Fa Tian jumping in front of him. Beside him was Jin Ji, who was stuffing things into his mouth with snot bubbles. Probably because of the appearance of their natural enemy, the sleeping Divine Stone clan members were all awakened one after another. When they woke up, they were all confused and shocked. If the Divine Stone clan had skin, they would be covered in goosebumps. What's going on? That brat is back again? Why do I feel so cold? Ning Shu said happily, You guys are here. Why did you suddenly come back? Jin Ji was still so sallow and skinny. His small neck supported his big head. When he saw Ning Shu, he smiled, although the smile wasn't very nice. Fa Tian sat down. I found a good place, but it's very dangerous. Ning Shu said, wealth comes from danger? Things that were easy to get weren't so precious. Ning Shu asked, what did you find? Fa Tian said to Jin Ji, you tell him. Jin Ji started to stutter. During this time, he wanted to stuff things into his mouth countless times, but Fa Tian looked at him, so he could only give up. He couldn't speak clearly. Plus, he wanted to eat, so he stuttered even more when he was anxious. The counterattack of the cannon fodder supporting female lead. Chapter 3982. Ning Shu looked at Jin Ji, who was drooling all over the floor. He wanted to say something, but he couldn't say anything clearly. Fa Tian looked at Jin Ji in disappointment. He said to Ning Shu, he's not like this usually. Fa Tian thought that Jin Ji had been taught well. At least, he was like a normal child, but he was still like this. Gaishan was like a parent who had asked his child to perform in front of his relatives. In the end, the child's performance was disappointing. As a relative, Ning Shu naturally had to praise him. Don't be too strict. After all, his situation is special. It's good enough that he didn't make a fuss and eat. But was that the main point? What did he discover? Fa Tian waved his hand. Jin Ji immediately heaved a sigh of relief and started stuffing food into his mouth. When Fa Tian looked over, he slowed down his chewing speed. He couldn't wolf down his food. He had to be elegant and calm. He had to eat well. Ning Shu was speechless. How did Fa Tian teach Jin Ji? However, Jin Ji now looked like a very greedy child. He wasn't as scary as before. He looked green and wanted to eat everything. He was much more pleasing to the eye now. Son, are they back? Outside the cave, Shan Yu asked Ning Shu. Ning Shu said, yes, they're back. Mother Shan exclaimed and her footsteps faded away. She obviously didn't want to go near the cave. Ning Shu asked, what happened to you guys? Fa Tian said, we found an abyss. There's something strange in the abyss. I think there's some living thing inside. Ning Shu waved his hand. Then, can we not court death? This kind of place was very dangerous at first glance. Tian said, I sense the aura of an energy body outside. The aura inside is very mixed. There's death aura and life aura. Ning Shu hammered his palm. Of course we have to go there. How can we court death if we want to find out the truth? Tan, you can go and take a look, but you can't go unprepared. Fa Tian explained the abyss to Ning Shu in detail. When the abyss trembled, there seemed to be a beast roaring inside. In any case, this abyss was very dangerous. Ning Shu listened carefully. Then he looked at Heian and said, will it be harder to obtain those energy bodies than the ice mountain? There were powerful things inside, and the environment on the other side of the glacier was harsh. If they went to the abyss, they might encounter beast-like creatures inside. If it was an ordinary beast, it would be fine, but if it was some powerful beast, it would be a little difficult. Tian said, more or less. Anyway, it's not easy. How's the reconstruction of your meridians going? Ning Shu sighed. It's all right. It's a bit slow now, but it should be faster in the future. When do you plan to go to the abyss? Tian, why don't we wait for a while? It's indeed a bit difficult now. Ning Shu asked, can't we bring Jin Ji along? Jin Ji could rely on his teeth to defeat 60% of the races in the void. Fa Tian looked at Jin Ji. How can he look like on the battlefield now? Other than eating, that's all he can think about. Ning Shu shrugged. There was nothing he could do about it. He was born this way. Ning Shu asked Tian, how's your strength now? Tian, it's okay. I've been storing energy. It's about the same as before, but it's still not enough to go against the Grand Uncle. Ning Shu, I think the Grand Uncle has begun to suspect my identity and is testing me. Fa Tian raised his eyebrows. He looked a little surprised, but there was no fear. Why would they suspect you? I haven't even contacted you. At least they hadn't appeared in public. They hadn't appeared in front of the Grand Uncle organization. It stood to reason that they shouldn't be suspected. Ning Shu shook his head. I don't know. God knows why they would suspect me. They probably put some kind of mark on me. Fation, your body has been rebuilt. Your previous soul has been annihilated. There's no mark on you. Fation and Ning Shu thought about it. Anyway, they couldn't figure it out. Since they couldn't figure it out, they were too lazy to think about it. So what if they know? Now that I have the power to fight, I'm not very afraid. Fei Tian didn't care at all. Ning Shu looked at Fei Tian. Why do you still look like a child? She had been asleep for so long and had been born for so long. Fei Tian hadn't grown up yet. To be precise, Fei Tian hadn't grown much since he was born. Wasn't this growth period too long? Fei Tian, it lacks nutrition. Aren't you small too? Being called small, Fei Tian didn't feel good. He refuted her without thinking. Ning Shu, I'm still a cub. Are you still a cub now? Fei Tian didn't bother to talk to Ning Shu. Ning Shu began to prepare the things to go to the abyss. He couldn't go to the abyss unarmed. He had to take a look first. If his strength didn't allow it, then he would think about it later. Ning Shu found the Godstone clan. He found a large group of them locked together and tried to stay away from the cave. Whoever was in the cave was Jin Ji, so they stayed away from Jin Ji. Ning Shu told Shan Yu about the abyss and asked the Godstone clan for help. Of course, they didn't need to go the first time. Instead, Ning Shu and Fei Tian went to explore the depths. Ning Shu asked Shan Yu, "Do you know about this abyss?" Shan Yu shook his head. "The void is so big. There are many things I don't know. Also, there are many dangerous places. I don't recommend you go to dangerous places." Ning Shu also knew that Shan Yu was doing it for their own good. However, Tian needed to grow and become stronger. In order to obtain this power, he had to take risks. "I'll go with you. As for the other clansmen, they're too big of a target. It's not suitable." Ning Shu smiled and nodded. "Thank you. I'll let you know when it's time to leave." Shan Yu hesitated and asked, "Is that cub going too?" The cub he was talking about was Jin Ji. Of course, he's now cultivating his personality. If we leave him alone, he'll immediately return to his original state. "Shan Yu, I don't care about his personality. I just want to know if he's still biting her." After packing up, the four of them set off for the abyss. Along the way, Shan Yu was very worried that Jin Ji would bite him. When they approached the abyss, they bumped into a group of people. The scene was very quiet. The Grand Elder narrowed his eyes and looked at Ning Shu and Fei Tian. He was probably certain now. Previously, he had been suspicious. Now that he bumped into them, he was 100% sure. Tian looked at the Grand Elder calmly as if he was a stranger. Ning Shu tilted his head and asked, "Grandpa, where are you going?" "We're going to the abyss." "Where are you going?" "If you're going to the abyss, we can go with you." The Cannon Fodder Girls counterattack. The Cannon Fodder Girls counterattack. Chapter 3983. Ning Shu invited Senior Uncle Tai Shu enthusiastically. "Grandpa, do you want to come with us? If something happens, we can take care of each other." She was like a good child, especially naive. The world was beautiful, and she was eager to help the old man cross the road to prove that she was a good child. She was eager to help people, and her whole body was shining. Fei Tian was speechless. Could it be that she was reborn, and her brain was also reborn? However, Fei Tian wouldn't embarrass Ning Shu in front of others, especially in front of enemies. Crunch crunch. The sound of Jin Ji chewing was quite obvious in this quiet atmosphere. Senior Uncle Tai Shu looked at Jin Ji, who was like an African refugee, and then looked away at Ning Shu. "You were indeed reborn." Ning Shu smiled slightly. "I don't understand what you're talking about." Senior Uncle Tai Shu continued, "At that time, that world already had a strong vitality and initial power, enough to give birth to a person." Ning Shu was expressionless. Fei Tian frowned. In other words, Ning Shu's birth might have been expected by Senior Uncle Tai Shu. The only thing that was uncertain was what she would look like after being born. Now it should be confirmed. After being reborn, she might have memories or she might not. It all depended on the meaning of the place of birth. Ning Shu suddenly understood. Senior Uncle Tai Shu and the others didn't think that she had no memories. As a newly born creature, It was normal to have no memories. It was a brand new beginning. But she had memories. This was really fun. Ning Shu looked at Senior Uncle Tai Shu blankly. What are you talking about? I don't understand. What birth? I don't have memories. I don't have the past. Fa Tian covered Ning Shu's ears from behind. Don't listen to his nonsense. He's an old liar. Fa Tian understood what Ning Shu meant. He wanted to give the other party the wrong information, thinking that Ning Shu had no memories. Ning Shu turned to Tian and asked, "What is this grandpa talking about? I don't understand." Tian pursed his lips and comforted her, "You don't have to understand. Don't care what he says. Just don't believe him. You just have to trust me." The Grand Elder silently watched the self-directed performance of Ning Shu and Fa Tian. His face was indifferent, and no one could tell whether he believed it or not. However, Ning Shu didn't care whether he believed it or not. It was not a bad idea to indulge in acting. Anyway, Ning Shu was almost touched by her own acting skills and was addicted to it. As for whether the other party was touched or not, it didn't matter. It was fine as long as he was touched. Shan Yu suddenly understood. No wonder the granduncles always kidnapped the cub. There must be something in the cub's hands that made them itch. How shameless. Ning Shu said, "Since you're not going the same way as us, then goodbye." Ning Shu looked at Fa Tian innocently and asked, "Does this old man have some kind of illness? He's always so quiet and doesn't even answer my questions." Tian pursed his lips and could only say, "Maybe." He was very sick. Sang Liang, who was next to the Grand Elder, stared at Ning Shu. His eyes were very penetrating. Ning Shu looked at Sang Liang and asked Tian very ignorantly, "What's wrong with this gentleman? He stopped me before and kept talking to me. I didn't understand." Tian said, "Just ignore him. That's enough." Ning Shu said, "Oh." With a bright smile on his face, he waved to the Grand Elder and Sang Liang. The old men. She was innocent and naive, and especially cute as she attacked him personally. Shan Yu walked past them with heavy steps. After walking for a long time, Ning Shu felt that their eyes were quite sharp. Fa Tian said to Ning Shu, "How confident are you in escaping from them now?" He didn't ask how confident he was in winning, but how confident he was in escaping. From the moment he opened his mouth, he was at a disadvantage. There was a big gap in strength between the two sides. It wasn't rational to fight head-on. It was rational to not be angry or unwilling. He could only look at it objectively. Ning Shu pondered for a while and said, "There's a 50% chance. If we catch them off guard, we might be able to hurt them." With the strength in his arm, if he attacked them when they weren't prepared, the heavy blow would be too much for them to bear. At least he could make them feel pain. Fa Tian said, "When we have no choice, I'm afraid we'll throw Jinji to them and let Jinji bite them." Ning Shu? Was Jinji a weapon? Throw it over? Regardless of whether Jinji lived or died. Ning Shu nodded crazily. "That's a good idea." Jinji's black face was full of question marks. "What are you talking about?" Of course, this didn't stop Jinji from eating. Her mouth never stopped. Although Tai Shu and the others brought pressure to Ning Shu, they didn't think of going back. There was no reason not to go to the abyss because of them. And looking at Tai Shu's direction, it seemed to be the abyss too. Ning Shu realized that Tai Shu and the others really had a dog's nose. Wherever there was good stuff, they would be there. Since Tai Shu had gone, they had to go too. They might be able to get some benefits by fishing in troubled waters. Even if they couldn't get any benefits, it would be good to go and cause trouble. She was happy to see that they were unhappy. Tai Shu's team was very fast. Soon, they would overtake Ning Shu's team. Ning Shu said innocently and cutely, "Are they sick? I asked them where they were going but they didn't tell me. Then they followed us." Tian said, "Maybe they really are sick." Fa Tian wanted to vomit. Inside this small bag was an old woman. "Don't pretend to be cute." Ning Shu greeted Tai Shu and the others. "Grandpa, let's go together." Her expectant eyes were like an old man who needed to be helped across the road. She hoped that the world was peaceful and the world was beautiful. Tai Shu probably couldn't stand it. He looked at Ning Shu. "Are you retarded? Ning Shu smiled. I am. It can't be cured. What's wrong with that? He didn't bother with her. He sped up and soon disappeared in front of them. Shan Yu asked, should we speed up too? Evitian wasn't in a hurry at all. Let's walk slowly. It's not like we can get something if we run fast. Shan Yu didn't want to get anything. He probably had no desires and didn't worry about gains and losses at all. Anyway, ordinary things, even the most precious things, were not rare to Shan Yu. Ning Shu and the others arrived at the abyss at a uniform speed. This abyss was very magnificent. The whole earth seemed to have been split open by a huge axe. It was dark and unfathomable below. Tai Shu and the others had already arrived and were standing beside the abyss. Ning Shu and the others walked over and poked their heads into the abyss below to take a look. It was dark and there was a whistling wind in their ears. The wind was mixed with roars. The wind brought out the movements of the creatures below. Chapter 3984. After such a long time, Ning Shu had not seen a living creature. After Shan Yu left, Ning Shu kicked the sand with his feet. There was a faint white color in the sand that reflected a faint fluorescent light under the light. Ning Shu grabbed the sand and played with it. The sand flowed out from between his fingers. Ning Shu was puzzled. If the Styx River was fixed, it would not ebb and flow. But what was with the sand on the beach? Generally speaking, sand was washed by seawater. The sand in the seawater would settle on the beach. Ning Shu ran to the side of the Styx River and made a mark. He could not see the Styx River moving with the naked eye, so he made a mark. If the sand was spat out by the Styx River, then it should be the remains after being corroded by the Styx River. In other words, the sand was also abnormally strong. It was not comparable to a large piece of Styx River stone, but its hardness was about the same as a Styx River stone. The sky darkened, and a strange aurora appeared in the sky. It shone on the Styx River, making people feel as if some demon was about to crawl out of the river. Shan Yu had been gone for a long time, which made Ning Shu a little worried. He could not help but light a fire. However, this kind of flame was dark blue, which made the environment even more gloomy. Ning Shu was not afraid. He was just worried that something had happened to Shan Yu. In the end, the aurora disappeared, but Shan Yu had not returned. Ning Shu could not sit still. He released his mental power and prepared to find Shan Yu. Shan Yu was tall and heavy, so it was not difficult to find him. All they had to do was to follow his footprints. Ning Shu held a stick in his hand and followed the footprints while shouting for Shan Yu. After walking for a long time, Ning Shu's throat was a little dry from shouting. Finally, he heard Shan Yu's voice. Ning Shu pushed aside the thick thorns and saw that half of Shan Yu's body was in the swamp. There was no way for him to get up. Shan Yu did not dare to move at all. He was too heavy. If he moved, he would sink faster. It was his fault for not paying attention and stepping into the swamp. Ning Shu found a big stick and put it in front of Shan Yu. He said loudly, "Hold the stick, I'll pull you up." Mountain remained motionless. "Don't. You can't move me." How could a cub that wasn't even the size of his finger pull him up? Not to mention his weight, the suction force of the swamp was very strong. Ning Shu said, "Stop talking nonsense. You're already up to your neck. If you keep sinking, you'll be buried." Shan Yu had no choice but to pull the big wooden stick. Ning Shu sank his chi into his dantian. His toes clenched tightly on the ground as he began to exert his strength. The mountain, however, did not dare to move. If it moved, it would sink even faster. It allowed Ning Shu to pull it up bit by bit. Ning Shu used a lot of strength, and the blood vessels in his body bulged, almost bursting. However, this kind of situation had to be done in one go. Otherwise, the mountain would soon be submerged by the swamp. Ning Shu used too much strength. When he pulled Shan Yu out, he was dizzy and sat on the ground. Shan Yu was covered in sticky swamp mud. Shan Yu looked at Ning Shu. "How can you be so strong?" Ning Shu waved his hand weakly. "I can't. My body can't take it if I use too much strength." Shan Yu immediately said, "You have to find a way to fix your body. Otherwise, you will always be weak in the future." Shan Yu felt that this child was so strong. The Divine Stone clan treated every day as their last day. Now, he thought that it would be good to have a few more days. Ning Shu said, "Didn't I find a way? Take it slow." The only thing that made Ning Shu uncomfortable was that in the small world, his strength was suppressed too much. He was no different from an ordinary person. If his body was fatally injured, he would really die in the small world. Without strength, there was no sense of security. In the past, he still had a soul, and he was using the body of the person who entrusted him. Shan Yu's body was covered in sticky swamp mud. This kind of mud had a foul smell, and when the wind blew, it would solidify on his body like cement. There was no water in this place, so Shan Yu returned to the Styx River with this kind of mud. However, Shan Yu didn't care too much. He usually piled stones and metals on his body, but now it was just some mud. However, Ning Shu couldn't stand it because the mud was too smelly. All kinds of things fell into it, including leaves and even some creatures that fell into the swamp and were swallowed by the swamp. All kinds of things fermented in the mud, and one could imagine the smell. Ning Shu used too much strength and his body was weak. When he was hit by the deadly smell, he immediately became very fragile. Shan Yu's nose didn't seem to exist. He couldn't smell it at all. He kept leaning toward Ning Shu. Ning Shu shivered. "You are really too smelly. Don't come over. I will hit you. I will really hit you." Shan Yu raised his arm and smelled his armpit in an extremely indecent manner under Ning Shu's gaze. "It doesn't smell good. Ning Shu, help." Shan Yu saw that Ning Shu was really uncomfortable because of the smell, so he moved away from her. Bit by bit, he tried to remove the mud on his body, but the mud solidified on his body and couldn't be removed. When the mud was completely dry, Shan Yu found it difficult to even take a step. His body below his chest was covered in mud. Seeing him like this, Ning Shu endured the smell and went over to remove the mud. However, once the mud was dry, it was especially firm. Some sharp parts even cut Ning Shu's fingers. Shan Yu said, "If it wasn't for the inconvenience and the smell, I wouldn't have bothered. This thing's defense is quite high." Ning Shu, don't. This is too uncouth. It's too ferocious. Ning Shu was sweating profusely after removing the mud for a long time. He picked up a large stone and smashed it at the mud on Shan Yu's body, but sparks flew. It was obvious how strong the defense of this layer of mud was. Ning Shu's eyelids twitched. He said to Shan Yu, "Ordinary methods won't work. Why don't you try sticking your hand into the Styx River?" Shan Yu was shocked and shook his head reflexively. He looked very obedient. "Forget it. Although there's no water, I can't bathe in the Styx River." Moreover, Shan Yu and the others didn't bathe. Sometimes, they would wake up with a tree standing on top of them. As for moss, it was very normal. "Ning Shu, I'm not asking you to jump in directly. Just touch a little bit and see if the Styx River can corrode the mud on your body." Shan Yu felt that this method was better, but he still had to try. After all, it was a big problem for him to walk. Like a penguin, he moved to the edge of the Styx River with difficulty. Looking at the dark Styx River, he felt guilty and carefully stretched out his hand. He felt like he was on the verge of death. He was afraid. Chapter 3985. "You can't just call me hungry, right?" Ning Shu said to him, "Why don't I give you a name? We'll call you by your name in the future. You can call me Flower Honey." Ning Shu was still very cautious in front of the cub. If this cub made a fuss and shouted Ning Shu's name everywhere, wouldn't her identity be exposed? Although others might not care, she had to keep her cover well. The cub chewed on the jerky in his mouth and mumbled, "Flower Honey." Ning Shu then introduced Fa Tian. Tian shook his head at Ning Shu and said to the cub, "I'm Sky Law." Ning Shu was confused. Sky Law? This name was intoxicating. "He's called Shan Yu." After introducing everyone, Ning Shu asked, "What name do you want to be called?" The cub was very confused. "I don't know. I'm so hungry." Ning Shu was speechless. "Why don't I give you a name?" Ning Shu asked. "I'll definitely rack my brains to come up with a good name for you." The cub nodded. He didn't care about the name at all. Ning Shu thought hard for a long time. How about Jinji? Thinking of the name Xiaoming in the past, this name sounded so much better. Fa Tian said, Jinji is a good name. Let's call him Jinji. Shan Yu said, although I don't really understand, this name sounds good. Ning Shu said to the cub who kept eating, from now on, you'll be called Jinji, understand? Jinji still looked confused. Even Shan Yu said, why do I feel like he's an idiot? There's a big difference between him and the two of you. Shan Yu never thought that it would be so difficult to take care of a cub. With this comparison, he praised Flower Honey again. Not only did he not make people worry, but he also gave them ideas and could even go into the river to touch stones. What kind of immortal cub was this? This Jinji really made one's head go bald. Along the way, he became more and more familiar with Jinji. At least he knew that the two words Jinji represented him. Once she called out Jinji's name, he would have a reaction. Moreover, he would restrain himself slightly when it came to eating, but only slightly. Strong instincts were not easy to control. This cub's instinct was to eat continuously. Fa Tian was slowly understanding Jinji's power. Everything Jinji ate seemed to turn into defensive power, giving him a very strong defensive power. The Divine Stone clan relied on piling up hard stones and metals to increase their defense, while the cub Jinji relied on eating to absorb energy. Although he was thin and weak, he seemed to have copper bones and iron skin. After eating so much, Jinji's face was still so yellow. His face was sallow and his body was emaciated. Could it be that he was going to be like this his entire life? This is a little ugly. Ning Shu preferred to stay with people who were more good-looking, and her mood would be happier. Especially Jinji's appearance, it was frightening. Not a single bit of flesh had grown. It was very frightening. Ning Shu felt that the skeletons in the world of reincarnation were more pleasing to the eye than Jinji. Skeletons were clearly white skeletons, but Jinji was different. He looked deformed. If he used food therapy, why didn't his condition improve after eating so much? Ning Shu was very worried about Jinji's appearance. Jinji was a veritable omnivore. He would eat anything in the entire void. He just didn't know if he would eat small worlds. But thinking about it, he even ate soil. It was normal for him to eat some leaves. Mountain said to Ning Shu, why don't we go to the lush forest? Ning Shu refused. The lush forest is too dangerous. Even if a new clan is born, we may encounter the Netherworld clan. Mountain said, I also want to find the sharp-eared person and ask him to give me some things. There are many people to feed now. With Jinji with a huge stomach, for his own life, he had to let this guy have something to eat. Once his mouth was empty, his eyes would fall on him and he would want to bite him. This cub was worthy of his name. He didn't give his mouth a day off. Not a day off, but a second off. Ning Shu thought of the nectar and various fruits that the sharp-eared person mentioned. The rich resources of the lush forest were very attractive. But the resources were rich, but the problem was that it was dangerous. Ning Shu looked at Tian. Are you going to the lush forest? Fa Tian's main point was, who is the sharp-eared person? Ning Shu, it's a bit troublesome to explain. It's a bit long. Evan, I'm listening. Ning Shu, that he had no choice but to explain the ins and outs of the matter. Fa Tian frowned. Just based on a few words, you're going to find someone. Are you sure he will admit it? It doesn't matter if he doesn't admit it. Anyway, we're going to find a new clan. That place is rich in resources. There are quite a lot of cubs born there. Ning Shu looked at her baby, who looked like the reincarnation of a hungry ghost. We still have this trump card. Fa Tian glanced at Jinji. It's best not to count on him. Once we enter the lush forest, can you guarantee that we can come out? Ning Shu. I can't guarantee. Shan Yu. I can't guarantee. The ignorant Jinji didn't know what was going on. He repeated like a parrot, I can't guarantee. Fa Tian's expression became complicated, don't go. Safety is more important. Shan Yu, then where are we going? Tian, we can't sense the energy waves. Let's go to the nearest place where the cubs are born. As for the lush forest, they could go there when they were stronger. Going there now was like going through the gates of hell. Shan Yu, all right. Shan Yu rushed to the place where the cubs were born. There were already many clans there. Seeing so many people waiting for the cubs to be born and wanting to kill the cubs, they probably hadn't been punished by the Netherworld race yet. It was probably because the Netherworld race wasn't famous yet. Plus, the Void was still in a primitive state with no technology at all. The news didn't spread quickly, and no one shared it on the internet. The Netherworld race hadn't been born for long. Even if they didn't stop to run to the place where the cubs were born, it would still take a long time. Shan Yu couldn't help but sigh. I'm traumatized by the cubs that are born now. He had witnessed the birth of the Netherworld race, who killed people like cutting melons. Or the birth of a cub like Jinji, who gnawed on the heavens and earth, who wasn't cute and normal at all. He didn't know what would be born this time. He wasn't looking forward to it at all. He was just afraid that it would be some weird-looking clan. His heart couldn't take it anymore. Shan Yu clutched his chest. He was getting old and had no future. Ning Shu looked at the surrounding environment. There were huge vines full of heavy fruits, and the vines were full of poisonous thorns. The cubs would probably be born from the fruits. Actually, this was very normal. Many clans were either born from flowers or fruits. These things that gave birth to them were just energy carriers. Chapter 3986. Jinji could even chew on stones. Drinking this blood-like magma would definitely fill his stomach. However, looking at Jinji's resistant expression, Ning Shu and Fa Tian were both gratified and speechless. They were gratified that he finally didn't eat everything. He was crying for food all day long. However, they were speechless that he didn't eat when they asked him to. He kept eating when he shouldn't, regardless of the occasion or place. Therefore, they still had to make a move. After all, they still had to make a move. They didn't want to fight. Tai Shu condensed a black long sword. The replication ability of this blood was too strong. Ning Shu didn't dare to be careless. He said to Fodder, "It seems that we have to make a move." The Heaven Punisher turned into a black whip. The scales on the black whip reflected a faint black light, bringing with it an oppressive aura. It could be seen that Fa Tian was much stronger than before. These days of travel had increased Fa Tian's strength. In addition, one of his legs had healed. Ning Shu reached out and grabbed the whip, waving it at Tai Shu and the others. As soon as Ning Shu made a move, the other side seemed to have triggered a mechanism and attacked them one after another. The whip whistled and attacked Tai Shu. Tai Shu raised his sword and blocked the whip's attack. The attacks from the two sides became more and more intense. The entire space was shaking. The blood magma below stirred, condensing wave after wave of Tai Shu Sang Liang. They only had a few people on their side, while the other side had an endless stream of Tai Shu and Sang Liang. They all had trypophobia. They didn't have a good impression of these people. With so many of them, they felt even more disgusted. The whip lashed out. The strength of these replicas wasn't very good. They didn't even replicate 1/10 of their strength. However, there were so many of them that it was impossible to guard against. The whip shadows were everywhere. The replicas couldn't bear the force and collapsed, turning into magma and dripping into the blood magma below. Then they turned into Tai Shu again. Ning Shu was annoyed. He threw Jinji at the replicas. Jinji looked confused as she flew. She bumped into one of the replicas. He was afraid that he would fall into the lava, so he immediately grabbed the replica. He turned around to look at Ning Shu and Fa Tian, and could only open his mouth and bite them. Jinji took a bite, and it was like eating a soup dumpling. When the skin was bitten open, it exploded and sprayed all over Jinji's face. As for the replica, it deflated like a balloon. Ning Shu gave Jinji a thumbs up. "Well done. Keep it up." Jinji, why do I feel so wronged? With the addition of Jinji, it would be much easier to deal with them. Jinji was like a needle, popping a balloon with one needle. It was very easy. The mountain walked on the blood pool. These replicas were no longer a threat to them. They were just bloody all over and their clothes were dirty. After crossing the blood pool, Ning Shu and the others stepped into the miasma-filled forest. This kind of gloomy, decaying creature was what the abyss should be like. There was a vague figure in the miasma. Ning Shu was expressionless. There was no point in using the same method twice. Ning Shu held the whip. When he got close to the figure, Ning Shu immediately swung the whip at the figure. With a snap, the whip lashed out. The figure turned around and reached out to grab the whip. Ning Shu tried to pull the whip back, but he couldn't. Ning Shu looked at Tai Shu, who was holding the whip. His glasses reflected a white light, and he looked at Ning Shu expressionlessly. It seemed that this time it was real. However, Ning Shu still looked righteous. "You replicas, Jin Ji will deal with you." Jin Ji looked at Tai Shu and hesitated. She didn't pounce over to bite him. Ning Shu pulled back the whip and lashed it at Tai Shu again. Tai Shu dodged the attack. "What's wrong with you?" Ning Shu snorted. "I won't talk to the replicas. This time, the replicas are different. They can actually talk. They were all fools before." Ning Shu said to Fation, "This time, the replicas are much more vivid. They seem to be much stronger." Fation saw that these people were real, so he followed Ning Shu's words and said, "That's true. We have to be careful." Sang Liang said, "What are you talking about?" Ning Shu immediately covered his ears. "I'm not listening. This time, the replicas can talk. They're trying to confuse people." Everyone, fucking retard. Sang Liang and the others didn't encounter any replicas because they were the first to pass by the magma. The blood pool had the ability to replicate, but there had to be an imitator. Most likely, the next time someone came here, they would encounter the replicas of Ning Shu and her group. It was better to ignore this kind of stupid person who couldn't be communicated with. If she wanted to act, let her act alone. Tai Shu and the others completely ignored Ning Shu, causing Ning Shu to lose interest in acting. He sat on Shan Yu's shoulder and looked at Tai Shu and the others, who didn't move forward. They seemed to be waiting for something. Ning Shu took out a fruit and nibbled on it. He waited with Tai Shu. Anyway, he just had to follow Tai Shu's footsteps. So far, they hadn't gained anything. They hadn't even smelled any energy bodies, let alone seen one. The only gain was probably a pile of fruits. Jin Ji was very happy. What were Tai Shu and the others waiting for? What were they waiting for? Since Tai Shu and the others were here, they were also waiting. Maybe they would gain something. The miasma in the forest began to change slowly. The breeze stirred the air and made it even more stinky. When the breeze blew, it didn't bring a fragrance. Instead, it brought a rotten smell. It smelled like various things fermenting together. This smell was really amazing. Ning Shu looked at Tai Shu gloatingly. Who didn't know that Tai Shu was obsessed with cleanliness? In this case, the stench followed him like a shadow. Let's see how he could love cleanliness. Tai Shu's body was covered with a layer of black light film, isolating the smell outside. Ning Shu curled his lips. Your smell might not be better than this miasma. The wind in the forest was getting stronger and stronger. The trees were swaying like wheat waves. The strong wind was mixed with the miasma, making people dizzy and uncomfortable. This seemed to be some kind of entrance ceremony, waiting for something to appear. And Tai Shu and the others were waiting for this thing. Ning Shu felt some danger. His heart was pounding. This thing that was about to appear might not be something they could deal with. Ning Shu looked at Fation. Fation gave her a comforting look and then looked at Jin Ji. Jin Ji? He was at a loss. He couldn't understand the eye contact between Ning Shu and Fation. Obviously, Jin Ji couldn't reach this kind of tacit understanding. He could tell what the other party was thinking with just one look. Something happened at home. I can't update for a week. I'm taking a week off. Dear friends, don't wait. Chapter 3987. Ning Shu was enraged by Anhe's gaze. Such a handsome young man would probably cry for a long time after being beaten up. Sensing Ning Shu's unfriendly gaze, Anhe stopped looking at Ning Shu as if he was watching a good show. This kind of girl was the most capricious and demonic. Who knew what she would do again? In the void, and he did not want to cause any trouble. This big and small were both void creatures after all. If they got into trouble, it would be troublesome. Although he was not afraid, There was no need to. If she was a vengeful person, he would chase her to the organization. And he coughed and said, "The Netherworld River is very corrosive. Why didn't you prepare before entering the river?" Ning Shu would not say that he had smeared mud on his body and letting he think that he had entered the river directly. Ning Shu spread his hands, raised his chin slightly and said proudly, "What do I need to prepare? I don't need to." Beside him, Mountain just listened and did not say anything. The cub wanted to save face. He could not embarrass the cub in front of so many people. Although the cub was bragging at this time, he still had to accompany the cub to brag. He had to ensure that the cub grew up healthy mentally. Mountain said, "Yes." There was no need to prepare anything at all. And he looked at the mud on Mountain and did not say anything. He ordered his subordinates to prepare to enter the river. They took out something similar to a spacesuit and wrapped themselves tightly. Then they entered the river. Ning Shu smacked his lips. This should be a prop made by Uncle Zhang and the others. They could absorb a lot of high-tech things from the small world. As for void creatures, they were born with powerful strength and did not want to develop any technology at all. As a result, the entire void was very primitive now. Mountain looked at these people entering the river like dumplings. Ning Shu said, "I'll ask them for some of these things so that I don't have to smear mud all over my body." Ning Shu nodded. "I think beating them up is good enough." Mountain sighed. "That's not good. We can't find a reason to beat them up." The soldiers who had sunk into the Netherworld River quickly floated up with a few stones in their hands. They said happily, "I found a lot of stones." "Me too." "Me too." They floated up one after another, each holding a lot of stones in their hands. "What the fuck? You actually picked up the stone that I just threw in. What's the meaning of this? Are you deliberately making things difficult for me?" Mountain was infuriated. He immediately found an excuse to jump up and down, causing the entire beach to tremble. Many of the stones were thrown in by Shan Yu, and they had not been corroded yet. At the same time, Shan Yu was very confused. What was going on? "I didn't put them here. Why did they change positions?" And he took the stone from his subordinate's hand and squeezed it hard. The stone turned into slag. Originally, these stones had not directly decayed into dregs. They only had the appearance. With this pinch, the insides of the stones became like a honeycomb, with many holes. Shan Yu appeared to be very angry. "It wasn't easy for me to throw these stones in, and now you're taking them out. Do you know how hard it was for me to find these stones?" And he replied, "I know." Shan Yu stomped his foot. "No, you don't know." And he looked indifferently at the unreasonable Shan Yu. Even if these stones had not been fished out, they would not have become stick stones. Ning Shu said from the side, "You've made our patriarch sad. Do you know how much hope he had for these stones?" Everyone was speechless. "We don't know." Ning Shu said, "Do you know that you've destroyed his dream?" Everyone was speechless. "Destroyed? Dream? What kind of bullshit was this?" Ning Shu said, "Do you know what this means to him?" Everyone was speechless. We don't know anything," and he was speechless. The phrase, heartless, unrighteous, and unreasonable, was used to describe these two people. They were utterly shameless. "Don't you have any idea what these stones are like?" And he asked, "What do you want?" Shan Yu covered his face and whimpered, "We don't want anything. We just want our stones. This is my dream." What the fuck was he whining about? It was so disgusting. He was so big, yet he was whining. Then Shan Yu said calmly, "Give us some of the clothes you're wearing." There was no whining at all. There were no dreams or dreams. And he rolled his eyes and chuckled in his heart. "If you want them, just say it. Why are you hurting their dreams and whining at the same time?" And he said directly, "If you want them, give us something to exchange for them." Shan Yu was taken aback. He subconsciously looked for something to exchange, but Ning Shu said, "Give us back the stones we threw into the sticks first." "Did we offend you by throwing the stones in? You just had to pick them up and crush them. Give them back to us." Shan Yu immediately chimed in, "That's right. Give us back our stones." And he looked at the broken stones and was speechless. What was going on? They were completely unreasonable. And he threw a set of clothes over. Ning Shu did not take it. Instead he said, "It's smaller. I can't wear it if it's too big." And he thought, "Wear it if you want. If you don't want to, then so be it." And he said, "No, it's all adult size. There's no child size. If you want it, wait a little longer. We'll make clothes in your size." Ning Shu said nonchalantly, "Then wait a little longer. It would be inconvenient to wear it if it was too big." And he was speechless. What the hell was going on? Why did they have to get her size? Ning Shu continued, "I'm 1.2 meters tall and 50 kilograms. That's my size." And he was speechless. "Ha, you're really not polite." Shan Yu said, "Forget it. I forgive you for breaking my stones." And he was too lazy to pay attention to the two of them. Two trash void creatures. And he said to his subordinates, "Touch the stones and pinch them. Don't pick them up and shout when you find them." Shan Yu and Ning Shu sat on the beach, holding their faces in their hands as they watched the group of people busying themselves. The Styx River was corrosive. If one stayed in it for too long, even the most powerful clothes would be corroded and leak. Even creatures like Shan Yu were afraid of the Styx River. And he and his subordinates were all souls. If they were touched by the Styx River, they would probably be turned into ashes. Therefore, after a while, they had to go ashore and change their clothes. These clothes were like disposable props. Only an organization could make such things. They could be exchanged with some merit or the power of faith. However, Ning Shu was not envious at all, although they had props. But she also had her own way. She would think of a way eventually. But it was not as clean and convenient as their clothes. Shan Yu spat on Ning Shu again to disinfect her. Especially now that she was covered in blisters, it was easier for her to get infected. Chapter 3988. Ning Shu was baptized by saliva. He repeatedly told Shan Yu that he didn't need his saliva, but Shan Yu insisted that his saliva was beneficial. Sometimes, when he was injured, he would use his saliva to heal himself. Ning Shu, what healed him was his body's resistance, not his saliva. Fortunately, Shan Yu was a vegetarian, and his saliva didn't have any taste. If he ate meat and had meat or bones stuck in his teeth and fermented in his mouth, one could imagine the taste. Shan Yu's head would have exploded. And he and the others didn't find anything for a long time. Shan Yu touched his chest and said gloatingly, "It's useless to have so many people. We can't find anything even with so many people." Tisk. The conditions for the formation of the Styx stone were very strict. Naturally, it was rare. It was normal that they couldn't find any. Ning Shu also spent a long time finding one. Shan Yu had probably forgotten the scene where days felt like years on the beach. He would laugh at he and the others now. And he and the others searched every inch of the area. They also marked the areas they searched so that they wouldn't search again. This was the advantage of having many people. For example, Ning Shu couldn't be sure where he had been. Even after searching repeatedly, he still wasn't sure. Ning Shu was curious about why he and the others were looking for this stone. This stone was very hard. It was very beneficial to He's family. But what was in it for He? Ordinary weapons couldn't break it. Could it be that the organization needed it? It made sense. The organization needed all kinds of materials to make all kinds of props. The Styx stone was also a good material. After a thorough search, he and the others found a Styx stone. However, this Styx stone wasn't very big. It was only the size of an adult man's fist. Shan Yu had said that they couldn't find it, but now they found it. This made Shan Yu feel embarrassed. When he saw the stone in his hand, he was anxious. These people really found it. He was so envious that he couldn't recognize him. However, when he saw that the fist wasn't very big, Shan Yu found his balance. "Hey, it's so small." He patted his chest. The one he got was bigger. And he didn't continue searching after finding one. Firstly, it was because everyone was very tired from the Styx stone. Secondly, the props they brought were almost used up. "I can't keep looking." And he and his group were about to leave when Ning Shu called out to he, "Remember to give it to me the next time we meet." And he sneered. "Ha, Ning Shu, if you don't give it to me, I'll go find you." And he, Sure. Ning Shu made a sound of surprise. Don't tell me you're thinking that I'll rush straight to your base camp to look for you? Of course not. I'll only wait for you to be alone. When you're alone, I'll put a sack on you. If she were to rush straight into the organization, she would be seen as provoking the organization and would be destroyed. Right now, he was just a weakling. He couldn't beat the Taishu and the others, let alone such a huge organization. And he was speechless. What do you want to do when you're alone? He was very suspicious that this guy wanted to assassinate him just for some tools. The void creatures were really poor. And he despised and complained in his heart, but in front of his subordinates, he wasn't afraid of Ning Shu at all. He said majestically, I know what I'm doing. Ning Shu didn't care about He's attitude. It's good that you know what you're doing. I'm just afraid that you don't know. And he was so angry that he laughed in his heart. He had never seen such a shameless robber. It was as if he owed her something. And he and his subordinates left majestically with a gust of wind. As soon as they left, Shan Yu said bitterly, none of the stones I threw in succeeded. Shan Yu felt wronged and uncomfortable. Ning Shu said indifferently, it's normal. If the stick stone was so easy, not everyone in your race would be able to fuse with it. Shan Yu looked at Ning Shu bitterly. Ning Shu paused and said, throw more. You'll succeed eventually. Shan Yu started to fill the sea, but he suddenly thought of something. He threw down the stone in his hand and said to Ning Shu, I suddenly thought of something. Ning Shu touched the blisters on the back of his hand and asked, what's the matter? Those bastards ran away after they got the things. They didn't even know how to throw stones in. If the stones really formed the stick stone, those people would come again. Wouldn't it be too easy for them? When it concerned his own interests, Shan Yu's head cracked open. He was enlightened. Ning Shu was speechless. If you didn't mention it, I wouldn't have thought of it. Ning Shu said, next time, let them throw stones. It doesn't make sense for them to just take the stones and not throw them. Shan Yu nodded. Shan Yu wanted to pick up a mountain and throw it into the Styx River, but he resisted the urge. He carefully picked some stones and metals that were hard enough and threw them in. He didn't make any markings. After all, the stones that he threw in would either melt or be carried away by the water. Shan Yu touched the Styx River stone in his chest and said to Ning Shu, son, let's go back. Ning Shu asked, go back where? There was no one in the ancestral land now. They had all gone out to look for stones. Shan Yu said, of course we're going back to the ancestral land. Don't worry, there will definitely be people going back. They'll definitely be back soon. Ning Shu was speechless. Shan Yu's enthusiasm was completely short-lived. He swore that he would go out to look for stones and metals to strengthen his defenses. But after going out for a stroll and coming back, his enthusiasm had dissipated? Ning Shu nodded. Then let's go back. He was covered in blisters. He would stay at home and come out to play when he was better. At the same time, he would go back to study and cultivate the ultimate martial arts. Since he already had a body, there was no reason why he couldn't cultivate the ultimate martial arts. He hoped that cultivating the ultimate martial arts would improve his physique. What he was most afraid of was not being able to cultivate. Shan Yu led Ning Shu in the direction of his home. They stopped to eat and drink along the way. Shan Yu asked Ning Shu, what do you think if we treat the Styx River as our ancestral land? Ning Shu sat on Shan Yu's shoulder and nibbled on a fruit. He raised his eyebrows. You're planning to move? Yes, I think it's a good idea to use the Styx River as our ancestral land. Let's look for stones and use the Styx River to form Styx River stones. Previously, we found stones and stuffed them into our bodies. Now, we can throw those stones into the Styx River and obtain a harder Styx River. I think it's quite worth it. Also, there are no other races in the area, so we can avoid friction. Ning Shu pondered for a while and said, but there are too many swamps in the area. If we move here, won't we step into the swamps every 2 or 3 days? Ning Shu didn't mind, but the Divine Stone clan was too big. It wasn't easy to deal with them. Chapter 3989. Ning Shu was just rubbing salt in the wound and adding insult to injury. He saw that the other party's body had been split in half and even asked if it hurt. But Jin Ji was different. He dipped his finger in it and tasted it. Ning Shu deeply felt that it was because he wasn't perverted enough and Gij wasn't part of this group. He couldn't integrate into this group. Sai, did he have to go with the flow and break his bottom line? Ning Shu asked Jin Ji curiously, is it delicious? How does it taste? What flavor is it? The Chunibyu emperor, who was trying hard to merge his body, trembled. What were these lowly people doing? Were they treating him as food? He was too angry. His self-esteem was crushed into mud and he lost his dignity. How dare you? Damn lowly people. The two pools of lava wriggled and didn't pose much of a threat. They were like two pools of mud. Jin Ji shook his head and said, it doesn't taste good. It's pungent. There was a strong smell of sulfur. His body was lava to begin with. Ning Shu said disdainfully, your body is so disgusting. What right do you have to live in this world? Your body is your capital. The Chunibyu emperor had just been born and didn't know much about the outside world. His body was invincible and he was born with strong self-confidence. To a certain extent, he was an invincible existence. Now, he was despised by others as if he was a useless piece of trash. To the Chunibyu emperor, this was definitely a fatal blow. He was proud of his body. Did he have to be despised just because it didn't taste good? What kind of logic was this? No, he was a high and mighty person. He was a noble living being. He wasn't food. How could they judge him based on whether he tasted good or not? After being dragged into the ditch, he almost had an inferiority complex. He laughed coldly. What do you lowly things know? Fa Tian was also speechless. He said, why are you talking so much to two pools of water? You won't be able to keep up. No one cared about the Chunibyu emperor, who wanted to blind everyone when he was born. After all, when they saw the two pools of lava wriggling, they couldn't feel any respect. And it was a little disgusting. Jin Ji, who could stuff such a thing into his mouth, was also a warrior. What did you say? Two pools of water? You lowly commoner, do you know? Before he could finish his words, he was left with three weak, helpless, and pitiful figures. He was completely ignored. The miasma in the forest had been blown away by the wind. Now that they were in the forest, they didn't feel suffocated. Without the miasma, they could see things much more clearly. Although they had spiritual power, it would be very tiring to expend spiritual power. Shan Yu walked very fast and he was very big. The trees were like weeds under his feet. Standing on Shan Yu's shoulder, Ning Shu and the other two children had a very wide field of vision. They could clearly see senior uncle and the others in front of them. Ning Shu and Fa Tian asked, what do you think they are looking for? Tian said, both the grand uncle and that beast in human clothing have appeared. There must be something good. As for what it is, I don't know. Ning Shu stroked his chin and pondered. What was the most important thing for the grand uncle now? Of course, it was the issue of the vitality of the Sea of Law. This was a matter of life and death. They wouldn't have come here to sightsee or pick fruits. Speaking of fruits, Ning Shu was a little hungry. He took out a fruit and said while eating, it must be something good for them to come out and look for it. Even if it's just some scraps, it would be good. If they could snatch something from the grand uncle, it would be best. Fa Tian was silent. They didn't have any advantage in snatching. First, they had fewer people. Second, they had an unfathomable grand uncle with unfathomable strength. Although there was a problem with the Sea of Law now, if they underestimated the grand uncle, they would return to the embrace of the void. Moreover, they had been killed by the grand uncle once before. They had suffered heavy losses and could only beat around the bush. They might not have a chance of winning if they fought head-on. It wasn't a possibility, but definitely no chance of winning. Just like Ning Shu, the grand uncle and the others didn't suffer any losses and couldn't be bothered to deal with him. However, if he touched the grand uncle and the others' benefits, he would definitely be beaten up. Aikian was suddenly very worried. He was surrounded by heartless people, and he was so worried that his hair was about to fall off. He realized that after Ning Shu was reborn, she wasn't like before. She wasn't working hard or trembling in fear. Now, if she could lie down, she wouldn't stand up. Probably because there wasn't a life-threatening sword hanging over her head and she didn't have such a strong sense of crisis. She looked much calmer, less tired, and less sharp. This was a good thing, but the problem was that she had become heartless. When it was his turn to worry, he realized that worrying really made one feel haggard. Why did it suddenly become a matter of worry? Previously, he had been wandering in the void for a long time, looking for a way to revive Ningxu. However, now that Ningxu was fine, he was still so worried. Fa Tian said weakly, "Let's just watch from the side and act according to the situation." Ningxu looked at Fa Tian's tired appearance and asked, "Is the poison of that Chunibyu emperor corroding your body?" Tian said, "No. I'm mentally tired." Ningxu asked again, "Then what's wrong with you? You don't look well." Fa Tian didn't want Ningxu to keep asking, so he could only cheer up. "No, I'm just thinking about something." Ningxu patted him on the shoulder and said with a smile, "It's okay. There will be a way when the car reaches the mountain." That was how heartless she was. Tian felt even more tired, but he still had to maintain his smile. Tian said, "You're right. They came here for the energy." They vaguely felt that there was an energy body below. They couldn't go to the ice mountain for the time being, so they might be able to gain something here. As for meeting the grand uncle and the others, it was completely unexpected. Maybe the grand uncle and the others also came for the vitality energy. If there was a dispute, it would be troublesome. Shan Yu sped up because the grand uncle and the others in front suddenly sped up. Ningxu sniffed hard. "I smell it." As for Jin Ji, he was already drooling. His eyes were staring blankly, and he was probably dumbfounded. Fa Tian nodded. It was full of the smell of vitality, and it was extremely rich. Just by smelling it, he felt refreshed. Ningxu relied on the advantage of her vision to see a bubbling pool of water in front of her. The surface of the pool was covered in mist, but this mist was filled with dense vitality. This pool of vitality was full of vitality. Ningxu breathed desperately, wanting to breathe more vitality into his body. Jin Ji, who was next to him, was eager to try. He wanted to jump into the spring. The grand uncle and the others stood next to the pool. Obviously, their goal was this pool of vitality. Tian's expression was unclear as he stared at the grand uncle. Psst. Chapter 3990. How infuriating! Ningxu was so angry that her tears fell. She gritted her teeth. Even if she had a body, it was still a useless thing. Other than occasionally having great strength, after using up her strength, her entire body would be useless. She would not be able to attack a second time. This meant that if she did not kill anyone, then she would be the one waiting for death. How hopeless! She had never felt so hopeless before. This was hopeless despair. If possible, Ningxu would rather not be born so early. If she was born later, she would have a complete body. But now that she had come out, she could not possibly put it back in. Moreover, if she died again, she would be completely dead. How unreconciled! How unbearable! Ningxu buried her face in her arms and curled into a ball. She was incomparably desolate. Why was she so unlucky? Ningxu used her finger to draw two words over and over again. Sooner or later, she would make him beg for death. She would also let him have a taste of this despair. Now, she could only say such ruthless words in her heart. This body was just giving her head away. No wonder she was suppressed so badly after entering the small world. It was because this body did not have much strength to begin with. The most important thing now was to change her body. It seemed that the heavenly Tao faith could change it, but her body could not enter the small world because it was too dangerous. This formed a vicious cycle. If she could not enter the small world, then she could not change her body. If she could not change her body, then she could not enter the small world. Ningxu secretly cried alone. She did not dare to cry loudly as she did not want to disturb Shan Yu and the rest. Shan Yu and the rest had no other choice but to worry. Instead of so many people worrying, it was better not to let them know. Once she was sad, Ning Shu had a tendency to gluttony. She cried as she chewed on fruits. Her tears were mixed with the fruit pulp and she swallowed them into her stomach. There was a small pile of fruit pits at the side. Ning Shu burped. She was full and was not so sad anymore. It could be solved, but she had not found a solution yet. To be honest, she wanted to run over and bite his flesh. But her rationality told her that she was a weakling now. Therefore, she had to endure. All her patience would be rewarded, although who knew when it would be rewarded. But now, she could not help but be sure. How infuriating! Ning Shu hammered his chest, feeling as if there was something stuck in his chest, making him feel extremely uncomfortable. Ning Shu took a piece of stone and carved it. Anyway, it was just a token of appreciation. Then he would smash the stone statue into smithereens and curse it to die a horrible death. Then he grabbed a stone and smashed it into pieces. Only then did the depression in his heart dissipate. He couldn't hold his anger in. He had to vent it out. The Grand Elder, who was far away in the organization, felt a chill and a flash of pain. This feeling disappeared too quickly. The Grand Elder sneered. Something was probably cursing him again. There were too many situations like this. Scoundrels hid in the dark, cursing him in a dark and disgusting way. Those who didn't even dare to face him were especially disgusting. If he thought that such a curse was useful, he would have died under the curse a long time ago. The Grand Elder flicked his finger, and the black smoke dissipated. He sneered, and his eyebrows were full of contempt and fearless certainty. His strong confidence stood in the void. Ning Shu didn't think that making a stone statue could do anything to the Grand Elder. He just wanted to vent his anger. There was no reason to hold it in his heart and make him feel uncomfortable. It was natural to vent his anger on the stone statue of his enemy. After his heart felt comfortable, Ning Shu began to carefully consider his future. He couldn't practice peerless martial arts or internal cultivation. Then, he could only accumulate defensive power on his body like Shan Yu and the others. He thought of Shan Yu and the others, who were so tall and huge with lumps of stone and metal all over their bodies. They were not delicate and beautiful at all. In her heart, she still wanted to walk the path of explosive attack power. What was the use of not being able to kill people? Especially when she still wanted to go back and take revenge. Even if she walked the path of body cultivation, her body couldn't withstand it. In her heart, she still wanted to practice peerless martial arts. The combination of peerless martial arts and Fation would be very lethal. With Fation, she had to walk the path of strong attack power. Ning Shu scanned his body again and again. The place where there should be meridians was empty. It was his flesh and blood. However, there was a small section of meridians on his wrist, which was only the length of a finger. Ning Shu was a little surprised. Where did this small section of meridians come from? A small section of meridians grew out. Did it mean that the body would slowly grow meridians? If so, then there was hope to grow meridians. There were so many meridians running through the body, but when could they grow out? After being born for such a long time, the meridians were only the length of a finger. It seemed that she could only wait. As she waited, her situation would become better and better. As for the situation over there, it would become worse and worse. The balance of victory would slowly tilt to her side. She had already touched the wisp of consciousness left by Fation, but why hadn't Fation come back yet? Was he delayed by something? Or did something happen? Was he injured and couldn't come back? Ning Shu's mind was in a mess. Shan Yu woke up and called out to Ning Shu, "Kid, wake up. We're moving." Ning Shu said, "Oh." He crawled out of his ear hole and said, "Are you sure you want to move?" The other clansmen also began to wake up one after another, and they moved slowly. Shan Yu said, "I told them, and they all agreed to move. Anyway, it doesn't matter where they sleep." Ning Shu naturally had no objections. "Okay." Shan Yu turned to look at Ning Shu and looked carefully for a while. "You're crying. What are you crying for? Who bullied you?" Her nose was bright red, and her voice was muffled and nasal. Ning Shu said, "I'm uncomfortable. The blisters on my body haven't healed yet. It's very uncomfortable." Will it leave a scar and make me look ugly? Shan Yu didn't quite understand where her obsession with beauty came from. He could only comfort her. I don't think so. It'll be fine soon. Besides, there are so many beauty products in the void. Even if you're really ugly, I won't despise you. Appearance really doesn't matter. Ning Shu said dejectedly, but I think it's very important. After all, I'm happy that I'm beautiful. Shan Yu said. Kid, are you feeling a little inferior? Being ugly really doesn't affect your life. Ning Shu shook her head. It's not that I'm inferior, it's that I'm proud. This way, I can confidently call others ugly, and they can't call me ugly in return. Shan Yu exclaimed, that makes sense. It's like this. It won't leave a scar. Why don't you go to the lush forest and ask for some fruit from the pointy ears and some nectar from the living ones? Chapter 3991. Going to the lush forest, which was so big and full of dangers, just for some nectar? Forget it. He wasn't worried about the blisters in the first place. Instead, he was worried about something more serious. Ning Shu shook his head and said, let's move first. We'll talk about going to the lush forest later. The lush forest was one of the few large-scale forests in the void. Even the primeval forests in ordinary small worlds were extremely dangerous, let alone in the void. If he went in, he would definitely be eaten by the flowers and plants, not to mention the creatures living there. Shan Yu noticed that Ning Shu was not in a good mood, so he asked, did something happen? Ning Shu shook his head, pursed his lips and said pitifully, Mountain, what should I do if I'm always so weak? I also want to cut water with a knife and cut a mountain with a knife. Shan Yu was already prepared for the worst-case scenario regarding Ning Shu's physique. He had even expected her to die, so he said casually, that won't happen. Even if you remain weak, you can just follow us. There are so many of us, we can't protect you. Besides, we Godstone clan are all lazy. We are lazy to use our bodies and brains. Why don't you be our brain? Ning Shu was speechless. How could he say that he was lazy in such a righteous manner without any psychological burden? Moreover, he wanted to continue being lazy and lazy. Ning Shu said, I can't be your brain. I'm afraid I'll lead you into a ditch. Being a brain was too worrisome, especially when he saw such a big lump. He only knew how to sleep all day. It was so worrisome. Mountain said carelessly, we can't lead you into a ditch. Even if you want to do something, we won't have the energy to move. Ning Shu was speechless. I'm really drunk. They started to move one after another. The Godstone clan was not small. Ning Shu counted the number of his clansmen with his little finger. There were about 100 of them. Together with the physique of the Godstone clan, they could form a continuous barrier. More than 100 people were not considered a small number in a race. Of course, Ligua's race was an exception. The Divine Stone clan were all mature, and there was not a single young in the clan. Of course, she was an exception. Could it be that the Divine Stone clan was too lazy to even reproduce? Ning Shu asked, have you not given birth to a single cub since you were born? Mountain was a little confused. What's the point of giving birth to a child? Everyone is very busy. Besides, even if we don't reproduce, the void races won't go extinct. Mother Void will give birth to a new race. It could be said that the Divine Stone clan had no intention of passing on their bloodline, ideals, and expectations to the next generation. In fact, this made perfect sense. The lifespan of ordinary humans was too short. What they couldn't achieve in this lifetime, they could only pass on to the next generation. He wanted to leave something behind in this world to prove that he had existed. How could he prove it? His child was the best proof. However, the lifespan of void creatures was too long, so long that they could do anything. As long as they did not seek death, they could do anything, and there was no need to give birth to the next generation. Mountain said, aren't you just a cub? Do you want other cubs? Ning Shu knew the difference between humans and void creatures. Since he was in the void, he couldn't use human methods on the void creatures, and he wouldn't ask Mountain and the others to give birth to the next generation. Giving birth to the next generation wasn't beneficial to the void creatures. Instead, it would thin out their bloodline. Moreover, the next generation wouldn't be strong, and it would be easy for them to be hurt in the void. After a new race was born, it might not give birth to a cub until it went extinct. The large-scale migration of the Divine Stone clan attracted the attention of some other races, and they were very vigilant. With so many Divine Stone clan members moving, the entire ground shook as if there was an earthquake. When they passed by the territories of some other races, these races stared at them covetously. However, they didn't attack the Divine Stone clan rashly. Not to mention that the Divine Stone clan would be troublesome to fight. There were many of them. If they fought, it might destroy their territory. Even if the Divine Stone clan members fell, they might be smashed into a pit. Fighting would be too boring. If they died, they would have to deal with such a huge corpse. Mountain said proudly, "I didn't expect that so many races would send us off when we move." Mountain looked so proud that he almost waved his hand to show his respect. Ning Shu looked at the vigilant faces of these races and didn't say anything. He just let Mountain think that they were sending them off enthusiastically. The area around the sticks wasn't suitable for living. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any other races around. When they reached the place, some of the Divine Stone clan members stepped into the swamp in 2s and 3s. It was a chaotic scene. It wasn't easy to find a place where everyone could lie down together. It wasn't far from the sticks. Looking at the dark sticks, someone asked, "Is it okay to live here? What if the sticks floods and washes us?" Ning Shu, "Isn't it a little too humid? I can't sleep when I see the sticks." Ning Shu, "That's true. I feel like I'm going to lose sleep too." Ning Shu suggested, "Then why don't we move back?" In his heart, he didn't want to pluck carrots for no reason. It was very tiring. With the size of the Divine Stone clan, they would sink very quickly if they fell into the swamp. The swamp didn't look very dangerous, but with the Divine Stone clan, even if they wouldn't die immediately, it would take a lot of effort to get them out. Mountain didn't agree. "It's okay. If there are more swamps, we can fill up some swamps and leave some swamps. It's simple. Now the sticks is ours." Mountain raised his hand and shouted excitedly. "Oh, hee." The Divine Stone clan members' reactions were very calm. They yawned and went to sleep. After such a long journey, they were very tired. It was time to sleep. As for the sticks, it was naturally theirs. When the void creatures occupied a place and made it their territory, then all the property in the territory belonged to this race. If you came to our territory to look for things, then you were provoking our race. Previously, the sticks was publicly owned. Anyone could go into the river and touch the Styx stone. Now that the Styx belonged to the Divine Stone clan, it was impossible to go into the river and touch the Styx stone. If he and the others wanted to touch the Styx stone, it would be considered a provocation. It was really simple and crude. The void was so big. No race could occupy all the good places. There were many good places. If you occupied them, they were yours. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.